having a little rhino nap. It's a perfect way to spend an afternoon on a Sunday. Well, sort of awake. So for our new viewers, this is a black rhinoceros, or a hooked-lipped rhinoceros. The biggest difference, of course, being the feeding style. So the difference between the two rhino species of Africa, the white rhino and the black rhino. Silly names, really. But essentially the difference is that black rhinos are browsers, whereas white rhino are grazers. And the biggest difference that you will see within them, apart from their size, is the lips. So the white rhinoceros has wide lips, and the black rhinoceros has hooked lips. And we're very, very, very happy that we can actually sit and watch the rhinos here in the Maasai Mara. Right, speaking of being in the Maasai Mara, Brent took off very early this afternoon. I think he said he was on his way to the Tanzanian border. But don't let me tell you, why don't you go and find out from the man himself?
Well, welcome, and isn't this an absolutely glorious afternoon here in the incredible Maasai Mara in Kenya? My name is Brent Smith. I have Craig the Batman on camera today, and we are indeed heading south. We had a quick stopover to clean one of the river cameras on our way down, but we are going to head down. So we've had quite a few crossings, and I want to know where they're going. Are they hanging in the Mara for that little bit longer but closer to the Tanzanian border? Or are they crossing and are they heading south at a rate of knots? Oh, it's bumpy here. Let's do that, yes. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be heading south. We're probably about half an hour to 45 minutes to the area I really want to start checking first. As we know, this area is massive, and some days we cover well over 100 kilometers in a drive. So unless we find something to... Whoa, corrugations are horrible. Unless we find something that really grabs our attention on our way down, we're going to be constantly moving. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you have any questions. It would be great to hear from you. Now, let me try and find a spot with less corrugations. Let's see if that works. There we go. That's a bit better. Now, sometimes the trick with corrugations is to actually go a bit faster, and then you slide over the top of them. Now, Scotty's also out. He's headed slightly more east. He heard a report of a leopard, and he's going to try and see if he can find out that leopard down to the southeast towards Purangat Bridge. And, well, there we go. That's the Mara plans, more or less. Let's see if my good friend Tristan, who's good at finding leopards but struggles to identify birds, is doing back on Juma.
Indeed we are, Brent Leo Smith. We are going to try our very, very best to find leopards on a steamy, windy day at Juma. It is really very, very hot and very windy. Now, as Brent mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got VM the Wildebeest, and we are going to be searching for leopards, that is for sure. We're going to try and check some of the waterholes first, though, given how hot it is, just in case either Thandi or Hosanna decided to go for have a little drink around Twin Dams or any of the waterholes from there going northwards towards Chelapan. So that's the plan for the afternoon. Hopefully it will be a very successful one. Remember, you can get hold of us on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or on the YouTube chat should you want to get hold. Well, should you want to ask any questions, or if you want to just say hello. Now, I'm going to try and head slowly southwards towards Twin Dams. We've just come from Treehouse Dam now because we were doing our GoPro time-lapse things that Sebastian is wanted to do, and Vildy's diligently carrying on with it. And so we've just come from Treehouse now. There's nothing at Treehouse itself. I did see tracks for Shadow from last night that were in that area. Now, there was a bird that just flew across, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get it, VM. I just want to try and have a look quickly. It flew into the left-hand side, into that guarri bush on the left-hand side there, and it was a grey-headed bush shrike by the looks of things. So, Vildy, it's right at the bottom of the guarri bush, just above the ground. So, at our, I would say, 11 o'clock maybe is where it's going to be. Maybe if I just try and get us in a little bit closer. So, there we go, at the bottom over there, behind that buffalo thorn. Can we see it? I'm giving VM an impossible task here, given the amount of vegetation that is in the way. Don't worry, VM, it's flown away. Anyway, so we're going to have to just carry on. I'll try go a little bit forward and see if I can find it, but it is a beautiful bird, so it's a nice bird to see. The Night King, you're asking how many Djuma can you fit in the Mara? I think that's what I got. Sorry, it broke up a little bit, so I'm hoping that's what I heard. So, if we take just Djuma without Chitwa, we will fit probably about, what is it, 1,200, is that right, Them? Somewhere around there. I think it's about 1,200 of them inside the Maasai Mara, so that gives you an idea of just how big it is in comparison to where we are here. So we are only about 900 hectares on Djuma, and if we include Chitwa, then that takes us to about 1,300. That's as much as we go. So in acres, that's about 2,600 acres, or about 1,800, 1,900 acres if it's just Djuma. The Maasai Mara, on the other hand, is about 120,000 hectares, so it's a big difference. And it's a lot more, so it's 120 times. Is that right, Phil? Is my maths correct? 120 times if it's 120,000? 1,200 into 120,000? How many times? VM doesn't know. VM's obviously had a long day today, because generally VM's our maths genius, but yes, somewhere around there. But to give you an idea, it is a very, very, very much smaller area than what the Maasai Mara is. And it's amazing actually how dense the animals are here. So often people will say that the Maasai Mara, there's so many animals all over the place, but if you have to think of the scale of the area that you're in and how far you can see from any single point, there is just as much biodiversity here. In fact, probably more, given the amount of tree and plant species that we get here, as well as all the birds as well. So it really is an incredible ecosystem that we're in, and that's why we're lucky and we can have areas that are slightly smaller in the Sabi Sands and still be able to see as much as we do. I wonder if Janet Jackson is home at the moment. I don't think so. I haven't seen Janet Jackson in a while. Nope, no Janet Jackson there. So we are going to probably carry on towards Twin Dams. And while we do that, let's go back to Jamie, who's got the beautiful black rhino.
Our beautiful black rhino has been exceptionally patient and is allowing us to sit with it and just watch it go about its afternoon business, which is really quite special that we get this opportunity. Rishi, no, black rhinos are not always alone, and they're actually more social than commonly thought. About 20 years ago, the general understanding was black rhino are grumpy, solitary creatures, and that's not entirely the case. The black rhino bulls are mostly on their own. So the sexually mature, dominant bulls of over 8 years old are usually on their own, but it's also quite common to find them with a family group, with a female and an older calf and a younger calf. And often the older calf, once the female's given birth and her new calf is a little bit older, a little bit more steady on its feet, often you'll find her in the company of the younger calf and the older calf, and occasionally with the daughter as well, with her calf and a nice, lovely little crash of rhinos, so a family of rhinos together. So although they are slightly less gregarious than the white rhinoceros, they are not completely solitary as used to be believed. And in terms of temperament, they're certainly unpredictable creatures for the most part. They've got very poor eyesight, and their tendency to when they can't see what something is and when they can't identify it by smell and by hearing, their tendency is to run at it in the hope that it runs away, which of course has led to the story of them being exceptionally grumpy creatures. They don't have to be, though. There are certain black rhino that I've encountered that are as placid as white rhino and will come walking right up to the vehicle, come and have a look, sometimes even sort of sniff around the front of the vehicle before moving off. So they don't have to be grumpy and unpredictable. And look, some of them are, and the scariest, hands down, scariest charge I've ever faced on foot was a black rhino called Elizabeth. And Elizabeth just did not take kindly. We were busy charting black rhino middens, and we were plotting them to try and get an idea of distribution and resource usage. And we found her midden, realized how fresh it was, looked up, and there she was. So we tried to walk away from her, and she looped us and went downwind. So we basically walked straight into her, which at that point was the final straw. And she decided she was going to come and scare us, and she raced, properly charged us, turned at 2 meters, with lots of shouting and clapping from our side, turned. Basically, I mean, a black rhino can turn in the sort of the length of its body, if that makes any sense. So they look clumsy, but they're not. They are actually quite agile, and they can change direction exceptionally fast, which I'm very grateful for. Justin, I don't know, but now I'm really tempted to go and find a really large mirror. So Justin is wondering how a black rhino would react to a mirror reflection of itself. Their eyesight isn't fantastic, but I suppose if it were right on top of it, it would be aware of it. They're not like whales, dolphins, or elephants, which are quite self-aware. Dolphins are, of course, famous for being able to identify the fact that what they're seeing is a reflection of themselves. So I don't think a black rhino would respond like that. I think it would probably respond like a dog or a cat that sees a reflection. And in fact, what you'd probably find yourself with would be 7 years of superstitious bad luck. Perhaps the rhino would, because I suspect it would probably break the mirror. Maybe a reinforced mirror might bash its horn against it a few times. I honestly don't know. I don't know if anyone's ever tried it, but that would be my guess as to what would happen. I'm now exceptionally tempted. I imagine that our budget does not extend to buying large mirrors and putting them in front of rhino, but if it did, I would be very curious to see what happens. So an elephant would probably recognize a reflection, whereas a rhinoceros I don't think would. I'm trying to think if there's any cases that I've seen them chase their own reflection in windows. I can't think of any. Birds, of course, do that, but I've never ever seen a rhino do it. Or chase a reflection in a car. Interesting puzzle, that one. I think it would probably break it. You'd have to do it with a habituated rhino. There's definitely an Aesop fable in this. You can imagine the rhino seeing its reflection in the puddle of water and attacking it relentlessly in some sort of old-fashioned story. I don't know. Why don't I send you over to Tristan, who's watching some antelope reflections in the water.
Well, not at the moment they're not, because one is the wind is blowing so hard that there's just a chop on the water and no real reflections that we can see. And secondly, they finished with their drink and are starting to move off now. So they're going back into the comfort of the Mulawati for some shade, and that's those nyala that we're talking about. So it was a couple female nyala that came down to drink, and they had a quick drink. And with this wind, I'm sure their hearing is being disturbed quite heavily, and they can't kind of gather what's going on. And so they quickly drink and then back into the shade, as well as I suppose that it is very, very, very hot this afternoon. Now, there were a couple of Egyptian geese that were bobbing about as well. They seem to have disappeared for now. And there is a terrapin that is also now disappeared. Now that I look, there was a terrapin that was right up against the bank that was bobbing and floating in the wind, but unfortunately has also gone and left us for ourselves, or to ourselves. So we're going to carry on as well. We're going to try and keep meandering our way up towards Chelapan side. We'll check all the water little points as we go. There's lots of little pans as we head northwards, and so they're the perfect place for a leopard to sleep after a meal. I believe some of the staff went out after game drive, and Hosanna was busy feeding on this kill that Tundi had and finished it completely. So I'm not 100% sure that those leopards are going to be in the same place, but it's going to be interesting to try and see if we can. I'm pretty sure with the heat that we've got, they'll be in some shade somewhere close to a water source where they would have had a drink after eating, and so they won't be too far away, and it'll be fairly easy to find them. This is the problem with this time of the year. Once we've had a bit of rain, is that a number of these mud wallows that were dry during the winter months have now filled up with water, and it means that those animals, they have a kill, they no longer have to travel down to places like Twin Dams or Treehouse Dam. They can just go right where that carcass was and into the bush and find a puddle somewhere in there and drink out of that. And it makes it a lot harder for us to find them. So hopefully we're going to get a situation where they will be close by. So, Russell, you're wondering if Shadow is taking over Karula's territory. Well, between Shadow and Tundi, they're both taking over a little bit. So what you've got is you've got Shadow pushing in from the western side, approaching towards the central parts of Djuma and the southwest, and has taken that for herself. And Tundi is now pushed in a lot more on the eastern side to the center parts, and pretty much Weaver's Nest is the divide between the two at the moment, or Treehouse Dam, should we say. Tundi does go as far as Treehouse Dam sometimes, and so that seems to be the divide between the two of them. But if anyone has made a move, I would say the move is more towards Tundi. She's the one that's pushed it. We're going through a little dip at the moment, and our guy repeater is still a little bit on the blink, and so sometimes we lose a bit of picture. So hopefully it will settle down once we're out of this little dip that we're in now. So the one that is pushed a lot harder than what Shadow has, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to see Tundi settling, and if she is pregnant and she does have cubs in this particular area, I don't think she's going to go back towards Chitwa. I think Kuchava and the other leopards that are down there are pushing a little bit and making it a little more comfortable, and there's far better habitat in the form of the Mulawati for raising cubs than there is a lodge like Chitwa. So I'm pretty sure she's going to be here in this area over the next few months, and hopefully she'll end up settling down here, and we'll have a situation where we get her for a much longer period and she makes Djuma her home. It would be nice to continue the lineage of Karula and to continue that whole bloodline through Djuma, and hopefully once it's gone, that we then get a situation where Shongile arrives back and starts to take over after her. Now, while I meander along the Mulawati and check all of these water points, let's go back to Brent Leo Smith and see what his plans are and where he's heading to and whether or not he's gotten to the southern boundary yet.
Well, I haven't, because I got distracted by a pair of gabar goshawks. Well, one was definitely a gabar goshawk. I'm not sure if that one is. We're going to have to try to get a bit closer. So I suddenly saw them pounce into the grass and grab a testicular, and then that bird's flown off and then disappeared into the grass again. The second bird, the one we're looking at, then flew off. Now, I just need to get a little bit closer to see if it is the one that caught the little testicular. Definitely a gabar goshawk. This I'm not so sure. It looks a little tall. So, gabar goshawks, if you ever are, they've got a very prominent white rump, and as they fly away, it makes it quite easy to see. There we go. Let's have a closer look now. They're very relaxed. Beautiful bird. It is a gabar goshawk. It looks like just quite a skinny one. Now, as I say, the best way to tell is when they are departing, and you can see their rump. Now, it is quite difficult to see, but the red, it does look like it's got red legs, but it doesn't have a red beak. Now, the only one I know that is in Kenya that's got that combination, does it have a yellow beak, Craig, or does it have a red beak? Looks yellow to me with red legs. So there's Eastern Chanting Goshawk, but that's massive in comparison to that. I'm just trying to remember. I can't really think of one outside the Eastern Chanting. It's got that coloration. Now, a juvenile gabar will sometimes have a slight differentiation. Let's just try to get a little bit closer again. Don't fly away, birdie, don't fly away. The one was definitely a gabar goshawk with a white rump. But I was so busy watching that one and what was in its talons that I didn't have the best look at this one. Let's have a look. Maybe the light's a bit better now for us to see. Ah, there we go. It is another gabar. It was the funny light. It's definitely red legs, red beak, white rump. Gabar is G-A-B-A-R. Now, I have seen quite a very cool morph of gabar goshawk in Kenya, but closer to the escarpment, which is a menelistic morph. And when you see them fly, they are the only sipter, which is the small goshawks and sparrowhawks, that has a white rump. So it is so distinct. As soon as you see a white rump, you know it is definitely cannot be anything else but a gabar. And she got to fly. Okay, well, let's stay on that. I'm going to try get it to fly because we are going that way down the road. So you can see the white rump. Let's go very slowly. There we go. As it flies away, you got it there, Craig. You can see that white rump, that diagnostic white rump of the gabar goshawk. Well, there we go. Birding lesson over for now. Let us go to Scotty D Safari, who is on the banks of the Mara River.
Well done to Brent and Craig on their teamwork, identifying and showing you some wonderful shots of that gabar goshawk. Like Brent says, we are on the banks of the Mara River, quite far south. In the background, that is Lookout Hill. There is the Mara River. As you saw, there were lots of wildebeest and zebra that have come back into this area, which is a very pleasant surprise. My name's Scott, and I'm teamed up with Seb on camera. We headed out quite early this afternoon. We've got 3 Nat Geo friends on board with us, and we thought we'd try and show them as much as the Mara as we can during their stay here, and it's for most of their last night tonight. So we've headed off towards a crossing at kind of the main north and south crossings, and we missed it just by a few minutes. I'm sure a lot of you guys would have actually seen all those topi crossing. I think Steph was manning the river cams, but we sadly just missed that, but did get to see some awesome action with the crocodiles ripping apart 4 topi. And very interestingly, on our way to that crossing, we came across quite a tragic scene. There was a zebra lying on the side of the road that had been disemboweled and its kind of guts were hanging out and was still flapping around, and we couldn't work out what had happened. There was no predators around, and thankfully another guide who was thinking more clearly than me that came onto the scene helped us piece the puzzle together. And what would have happened is the zebra would have made the crossing, been disemboweled, but still be able to run probably to where it got to, about 500 or 600 meters away from the river, and then thankfully it died shortly after we got there, so it didn't have to suffer for too much longer. But it just goes to show how much carnage happens in and around this river. Interestingly, though, the time that I've spent in this portion of the river, I haven't seen huge amounts of crocodiles. There's a lot of wonderful crossings that happen here. There's quite steep entry points that you probably saw when we were a little bit wider. There we go. So quite gnarly crossings, and I'm looking forward to trying to spend a little bit more time here next year when there are more crossings. I feel we may have missed a bit of the crossing action further south in this part of the river where we don't have any of our river cameras. Now, I'm sure you've already been reminded, but we would love to hear from you, whether it's your questions, your thoughts, or any comments. So please use the hashtag Safari Live to let us know you are there, and that is on the Twitter sphere. Very good. I think we're going to spend a few more minutes here soaking up this beautiful scene. Look at all these canoes. A few other touristas are also enjoying themselves here. And it sounds like Jamie has found a very cute animal that she would like to show you.
I have found a very cute little animal. In fact, I've found a whole herd of, well, I wouldn't describe all of them as necessarily cute, but we have found a very peaceful herd of elephants that I thought were on their way to go and have a mud bath, but now I see that this little one that's coming up behind has already done that. So it's been very, very hot this afternoon here in the Mara. It's starting to cool down now. The rain is starting to build up to the south of us. I was hoping that these elephants were heading towards a mud wallow, because I can see these elephants and they look dry, and I can see elephants at the back and they look rather muddied and wet. And I thought perhaps that was the intention there. Those elephants at the back look like they've had a marvellous time in the mud. So I thought that was where these elephants were heading, but they don't seem to be heading there anytime soon. They don't seem to be in a great hurry. But I think what we'll do is, while we have this gap, I think we'll zoot around. I don't think zoot's a word. Zoom around and just pop ourselves in the direction that these elephants are heading in, just to see in case they do come for a mud wallow. I miss those mud scenes, like the ones we get on Djuma. Of course they do it here. It just seems that we're never in their vicinity when they do it. It's always entertaining watching elephants having a little bit of a mud bath and throwing mud around with their trunks. You can see just this baby's chasing Franklins. You silly little thing. One of the young females coming to check up on it, see what's upset it. You can't chase birds, you silly little one. There's hardly any point to doing that. Just for fun, to show how big and intimidating and scary it is. An older elephant putting paid to that behavior. Okay, let's go round. I don't know, I might have called this wrong, which is sad. I was really hoping they were going to go for a mud bath, but let's go and have a look. See if there is some mud around there. There's even more appearing. There's actually loads of elephants here. There's more appearing out of the bushes to my right. Okay, so while we go around towards where I think the wallows are, let's go back to South Africa and join Tristan in his search for Hosanna.
Well, we're trying to find Hassan at the moment, but we are battling to get up a bank to try and actually get to where his tracks look like they've gone, because he's no longer in the tree. There's no sign of Tundi, there's no sign of a carcass anywhere, so it seems as though they've moved. And so I'm going to just try and get up here quickly. And there you go. So his tracks looked as though they came in this direction. So I just want to quickly check around under these shady spots and just see if none of them are lying around here. You never know. Maybe one of them is just sleeping in the shade of one of the trees. It is a hot day, and so I would have imagined they would have gone for water and then just lay down somewhere. But it seems as though they've decided to move a little bit. Now, Chelapan is not far as well, so I'm pretty sure it's a worthwhile place to go and have a look. So, Ian, you're asking if only leopards can climb trees, or can lions do it as well? Well, Ian, lions can do it as well. So, a few days ago, we had a situation where Tingana had 2 kills in a tree, and one of the Birmingham male lions was able to climb up and actually get to it and steal those kills. So, it is possible for lions to climb. They can climb. They actually do climb quite well. The problem with them is getting down. So, they're not very good at coming down and actually getting to the ground again. That's where their biggest struggle lies. Now, just trying to see from up on this bank if I can see across, because where we are on the other, when we were down in the riverbed, is it's very, very low and it's difficult to see. But essentially the tree that they had the carcass in is just on my left-hand side here, and so they were in this general vicinity, so Hosanna and Tundi, but now it seems as though they've disappeared completely. I don't see any sign. We checked some of the water holes as we were driving down to this area, no tracks that I could see, and so what I think I'm going to do is go and head slowly down towards Chelapan area and try and just, and maybe we get lucky with one of these leopards somewhere in that general vicinity. But I don't think we're going to have too much luck here. Now that the carcass is gone, it's not going to really tie them to this area. I thought maybe we would spot them from on the bank under some shade, but typical that our leopard friends make us work for it. It's normally the case. The leopards are like that. You've got to do a bit of work.
Well, I was just going to say, you probably heard me saying I'm just going to tell Bex that we're going to reposition, because we've noticed there's a few vehicles sitting not too far south downstream from us, and we've Or just asked ourselves the question, what on earth are they all sitting there for? And we're the only people sitting here where there's absolutely no wildebeest about to cross. So we are going to try and reposition to those vehicles over there. Hello, Sierra. You'd like to know if these herds that we're looking at up ahead of us are migrating herds or if they are going to be a resident herd. And it's going to be near impossible to be able to tell the difference because they all look the same. It'll just be that some decide to stay when the others go. And I often ask myself the question, why do some stay? Do some get born in Tanzania and retire in Kenya and vice versa? Do some never migrate? It's hard to be certain, but a herd of this size would indicate to me that these are in all likely mainly on their way back south to Tanzania. We've been quite lucky. They had all headed south, not all, but the majority of them had headed south into Tanzania, and then due to good bouts of rain in all likelihood, some of them have come back into Kenya, and it's never a perfect movement. They're never always moving north to the top of Kenya, and when they get to the top they go back down. They're not nearly as systematic as we are. They kind of head in a general northerly direction into Kenya and then a generally southerly direction, but in between they can be up, down, backwards, forwards. And I'd love to try and work out, I've been thinking how we can try and better focus on how the herds work and exactly where they're moving on next year's migration series. And my plan is that we need a helicopter. And we just chop, fly around and cover enough ground to be able to work out where the herds are, what's going on. Because from the ground, it's very, very difficult to know exactly what's going on. But a bird's eye view would help greatly. So if any of you have got a helicopter and would like to fly it around the Mara, you've got a job for next year. Done. So that would be one way of us keeping a better idea of what's what. Now I'm guessing, I was guessing there were some predators that these vehicles are looking at, because there didn't seem to be any wildebeest moving towards this next crossing point. And if we just stop here, provided that vehicle continues to move out the way there, we will see what they are in fact looking at. If you just zoom into where that vehicle's driven away from, Seb, you should be on the money. Yeah. Looks like the car's about to run over the lion, but it's not, thankfully. You can see the lion just underneath the car. It's just a pale shade, and hopefully the car will move now, and then we'll get a better view. There we go. Looks like a male lion. And it also looks like his belly seems quite full. No surprises with all this food around. And I wonder if he's alone or if there's a few other lions here. Sadly, we are not going to be able to get there because they're on the wrong side of the river. But at least we've worked out what those vehicles were looking at. We might be able to get some better views. Let's see, and we can try and work out how many are here and what's happening. Oh no. It's definitely not looking promising, so we're going to press on. We're a long way back from camp, and we've got a long way to traverse back to get there, so I want to keep moving unless something very exciting happens. So while we continue and venture forth, we are going to send you back to Jamie, who has hopefully got a better view of that elephant for you.
I'm afraid. I don't have a better view of the elephants at all because the road didn't go in the direction I thought it did. So I've actually moved on. I want to go and see whether or not there's any sign of this little cub, and I want to do it before dark so that we've got a good idea of whereabouts to look once evening falls. And here we go through the tree graveyard and then back up the lugger. Berg, you said you've crossed this, right?
Yeah, man.
Okay, so it's not too bad. I did do this crossing once back in June, and It was, to say it was out of control would be an understatement. It was completely just foot down and go. You sure?
Very sure.
Very sure, okay. Oh, it smells. Oh, yeah, okay. All right. Phew, that was tough. That was a really tough crossing. Oops. Oh yeah, very stinky. I don't think we'll even be able to contemplate coming here during the rainy season. I don't think it will be on our list of places to go. So, by the way, we have an update from the guides that the little cubs of this particular pride have been brought to their first kill, or were brought to their first kill a few days ago. I'm really hoping that they're going to be there. So while we wait for our luck to turn and for the lions to pop out right in front of us, let's go and find out what Brent has found for you.
Well, we've got one of the Salt Lick boys who is very annoyed at flies at the moment. It's actually quite funny, but there's gorgeous, gorgeous light. So for those of you screenshotters, this is a beautiful opportunity and to get some beautiful shots of this beautiful male. And there we go, Craig says, I'm going to say beautiful one more time. He's beautifully annoyed at the flies at the moment, and he keeps getting up, scratching his face, snapping at flies. There we go. Now, he's quite hungry, and I can't see any of his lady friends. I've seen 6 different females, in the Salt Lick Pride before, and he also has 2 other males that form part of his coalition. Now, these guys do wander down into Tanzania quite frequently. We're only about 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers from the border now. Still no sign of the wildebeest that have been crossing, but I'm still the eternal optimist that we're going to find them as we get closer and closer to the boundary. Hey, big boy. Oh, shame. All the flies. No other lions to bite. Oh, Craig, did you see that bird flying past? There's not one we see too often in the Mara. Oh, he's disappearing. It is a blacksmith lapwing. Normally, there's a lot more spur-wing lapwing. Blacksmiths are definitely not as common. Oh, they're coming flying back towards us. They're not as common as the... There we go. Well done, Craig. As the spur-wing lapwings, but they are around. But as the 5th or 6th time I've seen Smith lapwings. There are all your chat next to us. Oh, and they're off again. Oh, a nice little flock of blacksmith lapwing. And no, they got chased by spur-wing lapwing. So off go the blacksmiths, and 2 spur-wing lapwing came in and said, none of this, blacksmiths. This is our turf. The blacksmiths have moved just a little bit further up. Now, of course, they're competing for almost the exact same type of area, these short, open grasslands next to water. Oh, look at that beautiful line. Just one more time for you there, Craig. Should I say it one more time? One more? Or should I call them stunning or gorgeous, rather? There we go. Remember, this is 100% live, coming to you from... voted the best game reserve in the world recently, the Maasai Mara. Hi, Jessica. Jessica is wondering, how old is this male lion? I would say he's between 6 and 8 years old. And so I would say they've probably taken over this pride quite recently. And there's 3 of them, as I said. But they are not by no means old boys at all. They are in their prime. And he spotted something that I spotted before him, Mr. Lion, across a way. And unfortunately for him, make a very good meal at all. There's a pair of tiny antelope on the opposite side of the little river system here that runs out of the Salt Lick, and there's a pair of Oribi antelope on the opposite bank that he's just suddenly spotted moving about there. There we go, you got him there, Craig. That would be 2 bites for a big male lion. Now, the first Oribi we ever showed live was actually in this area as well, but a little bit further to the west of where we are now. Lots of Oribi in the Mara. We see more and more of them at this time of the year after the wildebeest have done a good job of culling all the grass, and there's not so many places for the Oribi to hide. I was having a quick look into the bulrushes up ahead in the reeds, and that's often where the rest of the Salt Lick Pride will hang out. Oh, shame, big boy. Those flies are nasty. Now, one thing you'll notice here is that lions will often be out in the open, even during the hotter parts of the day, and they are, on average, definitely far more active during the day than lions in the Sabi Sands. Now, the reason for that is the high altitude, so it doesn't get nearly as hot here as it does at Djuma, so there's not as much need to seek out shade away from the beating African sun. Oh. Okay, well, he's tired and I'm on a mission looking for wildebeest and where they have possibly gone. But Tristan is also on a mission after big cats. But Tristan, it seems like I beat you today.
I am indeed, Brent. I am trying to find these naughty spotted cats that just seem not to be where they're supposed to be this afternoon. They've decided that they want to move around and walk around. Now, there was a Franklin that alarm called just here on my left-hand side, so I'm just looking very carefully in case there is a leopard just lurking somewhere in one of these shadowy areas that this poor Franklin has bumped into. And the thing is that it's the perfect place for a leopard to hide. It is thick, it is dense, there's lots of shadowy areas that they will blend in very well, so it's almost going to be a case of having just to bump into them rather than anything else. Now, the water source that I was thinking of is just here on my right hand side, so I want to just try and check this side and have a little look if there isn't something lurking in the shade over here. I would have thought they would have gone for water. After a meal, generally what you find is that they do. Shamal, I have not heard of any recent sightings of Shongile. The last one I heard of was the one by the Chitwa guides on Hoffman's, so I actually haven't heard of anything more since then. Whether there has been, I don't know. There was a report or a rumor that she was seen on Mala Mala somewhere, but at the end of the day, I haven't seen any positive kind of IDs or any positive signs in terms of photographs, so no, not that I have seen, but hopefully there will be something shortly and we will get what we're looking for in the form of some pictures of Shongile somewhere around here. The problem is, as you can see now where we are, I've almost hit a roadblock. This is very dense and very thick, and I don't know if the vehicles are even going to get any further than this. So he could be lying here, or Tundi could be lying anywhere in these general vicinities. I might just be missing them completely because I can't actually access this particular section. But what I think I'm going to do is I want to just go back around to Vulture's Nest and just do the other side of the Mulawati, just in case Tundi left and Hosanna then followed Tundi. We know he has been following her around, and so maybe he thinks there's a chance for another meal, and so I want to just quickly check those tracks and see if there's nothing that actually goes out of there, because otherwise we're just wasting our time driving around here. So rather do that then before I actually do anything else, because otherwise, like I say, I'm just going to be driving around a thicket for no reason at all. Now, somebody who has had a little bit more luck than I have is Jamie Patterson, and it sounds like she has managed to find one of the big cats.
We have indeed, but never mind, Tristan, I'm sure with your track record, haha, get it? With your track record recently, you'll be with Hosanna in no time at all. So we found one of the lionesses, and if this termite mound hadn't placed itself so perfectly in our way, I'd be able to tell you whether or not it's one of the lionesses that is a mother to either the older set of cubs or the younger set of cubs that live in this drainage line. I've just spoken to... look, listen. Okay, or, you could just do that. She just made a contact call. I've just spoken to some guests who are here, and they say that she's been doing that since they found her. Soft, gentle contact calls. We're far from where the original den site was, but I was thinking about it, and with all of that rain, this is perfect. Perfect shot. With all of that rain, I suspect that the mum of the youngest cubs would surely have moved them, because it cannot be good for them. I'm sure that this lugger flows when it rains in the way that it does. It cannot have been safe for them to be there. I think what I'm going to do is go and check out the other den site and then come back to this lioness. I'm going to sneeze first, though. As soon as I said that, I went away. Ah! Grrr. Thanks, there you go, there's the lugger. Where's the sun? It's gone behind the clouds. Stare into the light. No, it's gone. It's trapped. Oh, it's a horrible feeling when you want to sneeze and you just can't. Whew. No, go away. Okay. No, it's gone. It's gone. Well, anyway, that's the lugger that I think probably does flow when the water comes down in the way that it rains. So I suspect if this is the mother of the youngest ones, she would have moved them, not necessarily out of the lugger, but just further up. I think what I'm going to do is just go and check. Oh, hold on. There are some zebra in the distance. She looked quite full to me when I first saw her. Now she's looking back up again. Hold on. What's up, girl? What is up? Kathy, while we look at our lioness while she's granting us this opportunity with her head up, and I might stop talking in mid-sentence if she does start to call again. Kathy, you want to know what the darker marks are above the lion's eyes? All lions have them. And I suspect, it's just a pattern in the fur, but I suspect it probably serves to emphasize their facial expressions. So obviously their eyes are one of the most expressive in terms of visual communication, eyes, ears, face. So I suspect that those dark marks could actually help with that. You can see that the dark marks are where she's actually got some whiskers as well. Oh, bye. If you look at the dark marks, you'll notice... No, you won't. But if you could look at the dark marks, you'd see she's got some long white whisker-like hairs extending from them. And the reason that they sit... It's basically like eyebrows. So our eyebrows help a great deal in terms of collecting sweat and stopping sweat from running into our eyes. But in her case, moving through the dark and moving through thickly vegetated areas, that will help to protect her eyes as well and make sure that she doesn't poke them out with any branches. That, and it could also reduce glare as well, I suppose. Hunting during the day in the Mara, which the lions do, it gets very, very bright out here. Oh, sneeze is gone again. I feel like I'm overthinking this. Is it possible to overthink a sneeze? If it's possible, my personality type will do it. It's definitely possible. So glare as well would also be a factor. That's why cheetah have those dark stripes that run along the inside of the corners of their eyes, down their nose. It helps to reduce the glare. We're going to come back to her, but I want to just go and check because I'm not quite sure exactly what's happening here, and I want to just make sure we've covered all our bases and then come back. I don't want to leave her because I think that this could be quite interesting, but we'll come back. We will come back to her. Promise. Is anyone behind me? No. No. One day I'm going to drive it to someone. Since the loss of our side mirrors, it will happen. One of us will. Okay, we'll come back to her. Okay, we're going to start making our way. I can see there's another vehicle there, which means there's more lions over there. We're going to start making our way slowly in the direction of the lioness, but it does seem as though this afternoon's Mara safari is thoroughly lion-filled, because Brent and myself have found you lions, and now Scott has joined the club as well.
Well, they managed to get.
Oh dear, it seems as though Scott has disappeared off your screens. We do apologize for that. I'm not quite sure exactly what's going on there, but perhaps he's found himself in a tricky spot. I have bad news though. I'm in a tricky spot too. Bex, there's a good chance you're going to lose me as well. Just so you know, I was trying to skip this bit quickly. Rex says we've just got to have faith. Okay. Oh, here we go. I'll try to go through quickly. And at the same time, look for the lions in the drainage line. Clunk. Oh no, Rebecca, this is tragic. Okay, the bad section is just up ahead. All right. The buffalo. Okay, let's stop and look at the buffalo for a little bit. Although I'm scared, I don't really want to sit still in the bad signal patch. Also got some friendly followers behind me. Oh, there's lions. Hey, Ferg, do you see small creatures? There you go. Look at this. Look, and there's tiny ones. Okay, no, we're doing it. We're risking it. We're risking it. I'm sorry. Sorry, Ferg. I didn't give you any warning. We're just going to have to risk it because I see tiny little ones and I really want to see them. Wendy, a lifespan of a lion is usually around about, for the males it's slightly shorter, you're looking at around about 11 or so years. 10 or 11 years on average. The lionesses will live a bit longer, 13, 14. I've seen a lioness as old as 16 years old. Oh, I'm so excited, I'm so excited. Please let the little ones be there. Last time I saw them, it was just one little cub yowling its little head off. Hello, monsters. You're all alone. I don't think I see the tiny ones. But let's just know I can see a lioness. Okay, nice and slow. Hello, little bundles of fluff. You are too sweet. What have you got in your mouth, little one? What is that? Yummy. A bit of skin. Delicious. Perfect chew toy for a little lion cub. One, two, three, 4 little munchkins. Absolute little teddy bears. Too sweet for words. These are not the tiny ones, though. That one at the back might be. Carlos, a lion will be able to have cubs throughout her life. So lions are another animal that don't go into menopause. Although they become less and less fertile, and obviously the risks to the pregnancy are higher the older they get, they are actually able to fall pregnant right up until the end of their lifespan. So I've seen a lioness have cubs at 13 years old before. She's roaring. Just wait to see if this other lioness responds. So she waited until we left to roar. It's an unusual time of day to roar. I can see the little one glancing across. Look at you. All 6 incisors present and accounted for. Little milk teeth still. David, you want to know what the chances are that that buffalo that we saw over there is going to kill the cubs? Buffalo do kill lion cubs. It is something that does happen, especially young lion cubs, because when they're very, very tiny, they're completely unaware of the dangers around them. And if mom has to leave them to go hunting and a buffalo does happen to find their den site, they will trample them and they will kill them if they find them. But at the moment, with these cubs at this age, no, I don't think that there's a chance that the buffalo will kill them. The lioness is with them, she's aware. It's not a piece of buffalo skin, is it? Or is it? Okay. Well, you know, it gets cold in the Mara. Oh dear. Oh, a woolen blanket. Obviously fallen off the car. Oh well, it belongs to the lion cubs now. It's a proper dog blanket as well. Best tug-of-war toy. I'm laughing because I don't think that poses any danger to them, any more than it would a puppy. I don't think that they're going to pull that apart, and as soon as they get bored with it, we'll be able to pick it up and rescue it from them. But at the moment, I'm having a good chuckle because I'm just imagining them all curled up under a doggy blanket. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what happened to the last person who camped out in the Mara without being in a tent. Sorry, shouldn't say things like that. Caught in your claw. No, I completely lost track of my train of thought when I realized it was a blanket. No, that buffalo will not kill the cubs. Guys, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reposition. So I'm going to go around the car that's in front of us and back to the other side. And then we'll be able to make some space for the other vehicles that are in the sighting. What are you doing, little mistress? Oh, there's a turn I'm out. It's the other lioness. Yeah. Sorry. Just chatting to one of my Shab. I always feel, because the guides in the Sabi Sands getting a little bit. No. There we go. No problem, Fergus. Fergus telling me to to turn ever so slightly for him. The guides in the Mara. I wish I had a camera. I do have a camera. To take a picture. I know I'm not allowed to, but I'm going to. Ask for forgiveness later. You know. So the other guides in the sands know exactly how our whole program works, but we haven't had a chance to explain the whole thing to the guides in the Mara. So I always feel terribly inconsistent. Sometimes I'll stop and chat to them, and sometimes I'll just sort of wave at them and continue talking. I always feel a little guilty. Where did you get that? Naughty. So this is the mother of the older cubs, and I think all of these cubs come from the same litter. They're definitely not the young ones that we saw here a few nights ago. Actually, it must have been about 2 weeks now. I don't know if Faith is in final control, but maybe she can remember when we saw them. Hello. Are you getting brave? So brave. Oh dear. I'm sorry, everyone. It's one of those realities of, as much as this is probably one of the most pristine wilderness areas that you could find on the planet, but interaction with humans and human sorts of things, it happens. Luckily, it's not a piece of plastic or litter or something that they can choke on. It's just a dog blanket. And some cold guest. And peace capsule, yes, absolutely. This is the home of the Maasai people. So yes, there are people that live nearby. The amazing thing about the Maasai is that they've been living within this sort of area for centuries, herding their cattle, and that particular way of life means that they pretty much live with the wild animals in relative harmony. Too sweet. I don't think it came from a local community, though, so there are no fences between these animals and the communities and the places where they graze their cattle or their sheep or their goats. It is completely open. And one of the focus of a lot of conservation groups is to mitigate the effect of human-wildlife conflict on those boundary areas. It does mean that these lions are completely safe. I'm sorry, that sneeze is still lingering somewhere. I'm trying desperately to master it, but it doesn't seem to be working. Okay, so I've just worked out we're actually still quite far from the den site. Oh, these four are just too gorgeous. Where are your younger cousins, you lot? I'm not going to chase them off the blanket. I will collect it, but I'm not going to do it now while they're playing with it. I'll wait until they've forgotten about it. They're little. Attention spans are short. Innocent little faces. Okay, for those of you that have just discovered this live stream, so I don't really want to tear my eyes away from the Lion Cubs, but those of you who have just discovered the live stream, my name is Jamie, and this afternoon Fergus is in charge of bringing you these amazing images. And we're live from the Maasai Mara here in Kenya. What that means is that you can send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Perhaps you'd like to know all about these little munchkins. What are you doing? Where are you going? Look at your enormous feet. I'm in a duck. This is so cool. I love it when they do this. Now these cubs are actually quite big. I would guess 2.5 months, 3 months. There you go, Peter. If you wanted to know about the age of all of these cubs, I would put them at around about 3 months. They are quite big now. They no longer have that tiny, tiny teddy bear look of cubs that are around about 6 weeks old. Look at this. It's so cute. So I would put them in around about 3 months. I think they're all the same age. In fact, I suspect they are all from the same litter. I'll have to speak to the guides and just double check that, because they obviously have spent more time with these cubs. I've only ever seen... Did you get it right? I've only ever seen 2 lionesses with these cubs, and I know that one of them has tiny, tiny little babies. So I think that the rest of them all come from that lioness who's lying at the back. Bull! Come on, Bull, you can do it. Get off. Fine, you know fun. Go find something else to play with. Mimi, the reason that they are called cubs, I mean, it's a small linguistic distinction. And the reason that they're called cubs and not kittens is the fact that they belong to not the felid genus, which includes the smaller species of cat, house cat, domestic cats, servals, well, sort of servals. Servals will fall under that grouping. They fall under the Panthera genus. So Panthera cats, the big roaring cats, have cubs, and the big cats have cubs. So lions, leopards, tigers, cheetahs, they all have cubs. Dogs have pups, and hyenas have cubs. And it's a distinction that isn't always all that clear, because of course hyenas are neither dogs nor cats. But if you go back far enough, cats and hyenas are more closely related than hyenas and dogs are. So that is why, or one of the reasons why, they are called cubs. I think I suppose you get bear cubs as well. I wonder what the exact distinction is. It's the best toy in the entire world. Hello, you. You're a little bit slinkier than the others. Oh, listen. So it's very far away. Well, she's relatively far away, but it's the lioness that we saw first. And she's roaring, and you can see how the cubs' attention all turned in that direction. The reason we can't hear it is, of course, because it's behind us, which makes life very difficult with the mic. But what I wanted to do is just see whether or not this second lioness responds, but she doesn't seem to be. It's sort of strange in a way. I mean, it's not typical roaring time, if you want to call it that. She knows where the rest of the lions are. The other lioness is not responding. The cubs are not responding, and I'm not quite sure exactly why she's roaring that way. I mean, obviously we know lions roar for a couple of reasons. One is a sort of one is a contact call between members of prides or coalitions. The other, of course, is to announce to rival prides and coalitions where their territories are and to warn others to stay away. Oh, you are too precious. if ever, I mean, I assume that this is a market-bought blanket, but were it to be a big brand name, they're just getting the most amazing advertising in terms of the strength of their blanket construction. Oh, now we're going to have a proper tug of war. Bull! My money's on the one on the right, Ferg. Oh, we've got a little boy tugging back. While we watch the lion cubs play with the blanket, let's go across to another man-made feature of the Maasai Mara.
Hi. Apparently I'm a creature now. So we're right down on the Tanzanian border, as you can see. And you can't help yourself when you see something like this. You just have to climb it. From Nat Geo at the moment. Well, here we go. Tanzanian border, legally there for a little bit. But from Nat Geo, we're taking a spot. I've seen a cheetah sitting on one. Lots of breaking up. Is that better, Craig? There we go. Audio good. So our friends from Nigeria. Friends from Nat Geo, apparently there's a new craze in certain parts of the state, and it's called earthing. Now, without even realizing, I'm sort of an earthing expert, and apparently all you have to do is just take off your shoes and walk barefoot, which I do most of the time. So there we go, a new thing called earthing. Very strange indeed. So now, apart from looking for cheetah down here, so there's two boys. This is an area they're seen very commonly. The other thing is, the spot where I saw the white hyenas was just below that Inselberg over there. So we're going to start heading in that general direction. Oh, are those wildebeest? No, just zebra. Our search for the missing wildebeest continues. I've seen a few small groups down in Tanzania, but nothing big yet. Okay, we're going to keep searching for possibly a white hyena or the two male cheetah. While we do that, let's go see how Tristan's adventures in the Greater Kruger are going.
Well, so far just hot really, and no real sign of anything. There's tracks for Thandi and Hosanna, as we would expect, all around that tree, but there's really no clear indication as to where they've gone. It looks like Hosanna has gone in a south kind of westerly direction, and that's where he went, and then Thandi looks like she went east from the tree itself. So difficult to say where they both are. Nothing comes out on Vulture's Nest, nothing on Twin Dams, so they're somewhere inside there. It's just a matter of finding them, and we're going to just hang around the area, and we'll probably switch off at times and just listen, and hopefully some monkeys or something will start to alarm call and give them away, and maybe we can then find them from there. Well, that's the plan anyway. Ali, you're asking if Shadow and Tundi would be aggressive over territory. Well, most certainly, now that they both are adults and they've both got their own little cubs to worry about, they're going to be very defensive of their territories, of where they have their cubs, of the food and water resources that they have in those areas. So they're not going to really tolerate each other too much at all. I'm pretty sure if the two girls come together, there will be lots of growling and lots of drooling and foaming at the mouth, much like if two males came together. I would imagine it would be very similar between the two of them. Even though they are sisters and they are blood relatives, there might be some sort of cognitive function that recognizes that it's a sibling, but it's still a threat to the area, a threat to that female's survival and her cub's survival, and therefore she's going to be a lot more aggressive towards them. So I would imagine the two of them would be quite anti one another and really not want anything to do with each other. They would probably want to try and push each other away as much as possible. Now I'm slowly coming down on Yala Road South just to check maybe I missed tracks on Vulture's Nest, and Tundi continued on her eastward journey and came this side towards these water points that we see here. I'm sure that they've gone for water at some point. It's just to pinpoint exactly which water source it is. We've checked the closest ones, but there's no sign of them actually sleeping or resting. No, that's not the tracks we're looking for. And so they maybe have moved on to another water source and then drunk there. So that's what I'm kind of hedging my bet on. Now Andrew's calling me. Go ahead, Andrew. And Andrew's been giving me a hand in that area. And so it sounds like he's managed to find Hosanna. Copy that, thanks very much. Come that way now. Sounds like he's managed to find Hosanna somewhere close to where we were. So we're just going to go around and give him a hand. He says it's quite thick where he is, so we'll just quite shoot around. But it's not far from where we are now, so that's good news. And hopefully we will be able to keep visual of him before we get there. That will be the ideal situation. Our luck now, we'll probably bump into Tundi because we now have found Hosanna. She'll probably be lying somewhere here. Knowing her, she seems to always pop out when you've already found another individual. No sign of any footprints this side, so she hasn't come here. I would have thought maybe she came to this water point on my right, but it seems as though she's not come this way at all. Right. Just need to cross the Mulawati onto the other side quickly. That's exciting. Seems as though we will have spots this afternoon, which is wonderful news. So we're talking about it, VM and I, if Vulture's Nest didn't work, that we were going to that Ingwe Alley or Pangolin Track, and it sounds like he's somewhere close to Pangolin Track, so we just sort of hop onto that road. We should be able to find him somewhere there. Maybe he went to, there's a little mud wallow there, he might have gone that side. He used to be there a lot when he was a cub. In fact, I remember being on a bushwalk with Herbie and we bumped to him and Shongile both sitting at that wallow there. They used to use it quite often, so it's not surprising if he is at that particular mud wallow. I didn't even actually think about it until now. So got to remember that summer is back, and therefore a lot of these mud wallows are now full again, and that they need to be checked. So I believe a lot of you are very excited for our afternoon spotted cats, and it will be exciting. It's always good to hang out with Hosanna. He's such a character. He seems to always be up to something, much like Tumba. The two young boys are such quality when it comes to sightings. They very seldom sit for long periods of time. They seem to be just like a teenager or a kid. They get kind of ants in their pants and they've got to try and move and walk around and try. Sorry about that. We seem to have had a break-up in our picture. I do apologize. My favorite leopard currently at the moment is Tumba, that we're seeing a lot of. Tumba and Tundi, those are my two favorites. Tundi's been a favorite of mine, and well, Tumba's just been an absolute champion over the last few months. So I've spent a lot of time with him and really love enjoying his presence and his time, and so he's really become one of my absolute favorites. And then, well, Hosanna, you can't help but not like him. He's kind of first up. I didn't really get to know him very well. I didn't spend much time with him, but there he is right there in front of us. And so over the last few weeks, I've been spending more and more time with young Hosanna, and he really is growing into an absolutely wonderful individual. So I've thoroughly enjoyed spending time with him as well, but definitely Tamba and Tandi are my two favorites. Oh, there we go, a little scratch. So he is exactly at this little water point. So Wiem and I were saying, like I was talking about just now, that he might have gone towards Ingwe Alley mudwallows or to Pangolin Track mudwallows. And so there we go, there he is. Oh, are the flies giving you trouble? You look like Brent now. So Brent was having fly trouble, and well, now Hosanna does as well. We'll have to ask Brent for some tips to tell Hosanna how to get rid of them. And the reason why he's going to be getting a lot of flies is for two reasons. One is that he's lying next to water, and these flies are coming to sequester moisture from the mud areas and on the edge of the water point. And the second reason is he's probably got residual bits of meat and various other things on him that is attracting those flies towards them. The scent of it is what's attracting them. So what are you doing? Of course, this is not very successful at all. I don't think he's caught one, but we've got to give him an A for effort and perseverance. Alan, you say it's just like a human child playing, and exactly, Alan, what I was referring to just now while we were driving here is that Hosanna and Tamba, both of them are young individuals, and that's not very nice to turn your back to us, but they're both young individuals and they still have that youthful exuberance, and so they often are quite playful. They jump up and down trees, they chase francolins and various other animals and flies and all kinds of other things. And as they get older and they become bigger and more dominant, so they become a little bit more lethargic and they won't really worry about doing all of those kind of things. So they still are young at heart, and therefore have got this youthful, playful nature that we see where they catch flies and do all kinds of other things. And that's why spending time with them is just such a treat. And you know, over the last probably 2 months, we've had a lot of time with leopards, and particularly these young boys. And if you sit with them for long enough, they generally give us such an amazing experiences, from hunting to playing with flies like we see now, or up and down trees. We really are spoiled that we can sit for long periods and really enjoy the beauty of them. Right, now I'm going to probably just reposition ourselves a little bit so we don't have to stay at the back of poor Hosanna's head. And while I do that, let's go back to Jamie and her beautiful cubs and their woolen blanket.
Speaking of young at heart, of course, we've got these 4 very playful bundles of a lion. And they are having the best time now that it's cooled down, bouncing about, fighting each other, fighting over the blanket, fighting with each other and over the blanket. And there's a serious tug of war going on. They really are enjoying themselves. Every now and again, one of them just gains control. 2 little boys that I've seen, 1 little girl. I'm not sure of the sex of the 4th one. We've definitely got a lovely mix here. I think it might be 3 little boys. The mystery one is that one that's on the bottom. Every now and again, you can see when it gets a bit too much for them. Like with that one in the middle. Can just hear them growling. Ah, lioness is roaring again. Hold on, let's see if this time the lioness responds. She's looking. Ha! Detached. Are you gonna roll back, girl? No? Is my chin itchy or isn't my chin itchy?
Like you having a sneeze.
Bronwyn, it's unusual. Sorry, about to answer quite a sad question, but this is just such a cute little scene. Bronwyn, it's unusual for lionesses to kill other cubs. yes, as you said, it would have to be in a situation where it would be the cubs of another pride, in which case, yes, it's possible that the lioness would kill cubs belonging to another pride in order to protect her own, or at least in order to reduce competition to her own cubs. It is unusual behavior, though. It's far less common than the infanticide committed by the males when they move in and they take over a territory. I know it has happened. I've never seen it, or I've never ever been involved in a circumstance where it has happened. Lionesses are relatively good at staying out of each other's way. And when they do have cubs, they tend to have cubs and den them in the core part of their territory. Look, when they meet, and if they do meet, and they will fight, and they can fight quite seriously over territory, but they usually keep their cubs in a very secure place away from other lionesses. These ladies border on the territory of the Angama pride. So the Angama pride is sandwiched between these lionesses and the sausage tree pride on the other side. This Angama pride goes right up to Ulululu Gate, and then from there this particular pride's territory extends towards the Mara River and towards Kitchwa Airstrip. I think they're the Ulululos, but I really honestly am not sure. I don't know which pride this is. I'm really open to any suggestions. If any of you know or are familiar with this pride, I would really appreciate it. When we first arrived, we were told that the Kitchwa pride, the Kitchwa Temba pride, was no more. That the lionesses had died for various reasons. And then we were told about the Ulululu pride, which then split into the 4 Angamas, and then the remaining Ulululus, which I think was 3 other females. And I think this is them, but I'm not 100% sure. Would make sense, given where they are. This is such an utterly gorgeous scene. I can't begin to tear myself away. So we're going to sit here patiently and wait and see if the younger cubs are brought out to join their older cousins. Meanwhile, I heard that Brent was going towards the Tanzanian border. I heard he'd made it there, which means he's probably encountered the 2 border boys.
Well, border boys indeed, and we're with them at the perfect time. We could barely see them. They were so flat to the ground, and we've been carefully checking all the different Balanites trees that they like to spend their days snoozing in. And I have only ever seen them twice before. I haven't really spent too much time with them, but we're with them at the most perfect time of the day because they are almost certainly about to get up and go on the hunt. It is absolutely gorgeous down here. The light is incredible. It is a bit windy, but you know what? If you're with an awesome cheetah coalition, a bit of wind never harmed anyone. Now, these guys are quite prolific tree climbers. I've seen photos from the other guides of them right at the top of these Balanites trees. So, and let's hope they give us a spectacle today. And I think my plans are set for the rest of the day. I'm going to be right with these 2 glorious boys. Remember, this is 100% live from Kenya. Hashtag Safari Live if you have any questions for us. Now, for those of you who might have joined a little bit late or have just stumbled upon this live African safari, my name is Brent Smith. I have Batman on camera, and we have been adventuring, searching for the lost wildebeest herds or cheetah or white hyena or leucistic hyena. So we failed in 2, but we've succeeded in 1, and 1 out of 3 is not bad, especially with the amount of ground we've covered. We've probably done about 70-80 kilometers already today, and I'm ecstatic to be with these 2. Oh, it's just the perfect time. Yawning, stretching is going to start, scent marking, and then possibly hunting. Now, 2 boys like this, they might chance it at a sub-adult zebra or a baby zebra, and there are a lot of zebra around here. So I think that's possibly what they might hunt this evening. And wouldn't it be a bonus if they manage to catch something, they get enough to eat, and then the white hyenas arrive on the scene. A 2-for-1 special. Because the white hyenas do come into this area where we are at the moment. Now, these two particular cheetah, they were 3 originally. They cover massive distances. So, to give you an idea, they travel all the way to the Mara River, which in a straight line is probably 7 or 8 kilometers from here, around Majiachafu and Purungat Bridge. But this is their favorite area, this incredible open grassland full of dotted with balanites. The last time I saw them was under a tree, probably the tree behind them, I think. So they do have their favorite spots they like to rest. But while we wait for these gorgeous boys to get up and get a hunting, let's go across to Scott, who's taking in the breathtaking scenery of the Mara.
We certainly have found a magical spot, one of my favorite areas of the Mara. We're in the kind of southwestern corner of the Mara Triangle, and we're looking further west. A lot of that view will be Tanzania that you're looking at. And how magical is this wilderness? Very, very fortunate for all of us to be able to explore this place together. And, of course, it's very useful when Jamie's got lion cubs playing around and Brent's found those cheetah. And that allows us to just take a kind of back seat and enjoy the views. So, very exciting stuff on the other vehicles and also just beautiful stuff over here. My name's Scott Dyson, and we've been having a great time, but sadly in areas with no signal. So we saw 2 lionesses that had killed a zebra probably an hour before we got there, 2 big males that were fast asleep. So we've seen a couple of things this afternoon, but like I say, sadly they were in some low-lying ravines where we don't have any network. So we are now in a safe network area. If we do find anything between now and the end of the safari, we will be able to share it with you. So that's the good news. And the other good news is that in the future, we plan on being able to more effectively work this area that we're looking at now. We haven't been able to the last few months because it's a signal black hole. We don't have any signal there. And I think that this area is going to provide us with a huge amount of sightings come the next migration, or possibly even before then. There's not as many vehicles that work that area, which kind of suits what we do. And you are now going to be whisked off to another big cat. I'm not sure if you've seen one of these yet this afternoon. Exciting stuff all the way down south with Tristan in South Africa.
Well, it is exciting stuff, Scotty, and the best part about it is that the combination with the Mara means that we keep getting these cat trifectas where we get the cheetah and the lions and the leopard all in the same safari, which is really very special. And it's amazing if you think about a year ago, that would have been a dream to have the 3 of them in one show, and now we're getting it fairly regularly, which is absolutely wonderful. So it is so great that the 2 of them combine as well as they do together. Now you can see Hosanna is now out. He's dealt with the flies, but he is tired. That stomach is going up and down at a rate of knots, and that's because he's got a nice big full belly after all the meals that he's had over the last 2 days. Even though they haven't been big ones, they've still at least filled up that belly a little bit. And so he must have got some of Tundi's kill this morning. He had to have eaten some of it given how big his tummy is. So he's had a really nice feed, and that means that it's pushing up on his lungs, decreasing the ability to take in vast amounts of air, and therefore his breathing rate has to go up and quicken. It's also because it's quite warm today, and that's why he's chosen the spot he has to lie in. It's a nice shady, cool spot. The place that he's lying is where the mud is still a little bit wet, and that means that it's going to be a lot cooler than when the other sort of sandy areas that have been in the sun all day. So it's a perfect place for a cat to lie. David, you're wondering why leopards and lions don't mud wallow like hyenas do. Well, probably just from the simple fact that cats don't really like to get wet. They like their kind of coat to be in good condition. They don't like to be bogged down with wet fur. But in saying that, there are a number of cats that will cross rivers and will swim. If you go into the delta in Botswana, it's quite common to see the lions and the leopards walking through quite deep water to get to the other side. And there was actually a pride of lions down in the south of the Sabi Sand called the Charleston Pride, and there was a female and 2 young males in that pride, and they actively used to sit in the Sand River. So I have had many a sighting with them where they would sit in the Sand River itself. They would lie down on one of the sandbanks, and the water would be about chest deep while they would sit there, and they would just spend an hour or 2 just lying in the water, resting and relaxing. So it was really quite strange to see. So they do actually do it from time to time, but they just don't really like their fur to be wet, and that's more of the reason why they don't get wet like the hyenas and the wild dogs do. They tend to like to cool their bodies down. Probably also to do with the fact that hyenas and wild dogs are also a lot more active animals. They tend to cover a lot bigger distances than what the leopards or the lions do. You'll find that they end up in a situation where they will spend a lot of time resting, and then they have a period of activity when they chase and hunt and kill something, whereas wild dogs and hyenas are actively running for long periods of time, and their body heat and their body temperature must rise much quicker than what the cats does and stay hot for longer, and therefore they go into water just to cool themselves down. So that is probably a theory. I mean, it's not a fact in any way, but it's just an observation from a personal perspective, and that would seem to make sense that these animals tend to, dogs and hyenas tend to run that much longer, that their body heat must be higher, and therefore it's a quick cooling mechanism to go into water rather than having to sit and pant for long periods of time, whereas cats spend a vast majority of their time relaxing and resting like this, and therefore they can pant themselves and cool themselves down via panting and that loss of water vapor which cools the blood in the tongue down. So for me, that's probably it. Whether or not that's true, I'm not quite sure. But so I think Hosana is going to be in a situation where he's going to be very sleepy for quite some time. The good news is that I can hear oxpeckers all around me at the moment, and the evidence of oxpeckers generally means that there are prey items. Bless you, wildebeest. So Wildy had a little sneeze there. So there are prey items around in the form of probably nyala and impalas and various other things that will be going to cheddar pan and might even be trying to make their way towards this pan itself. And that's going to be good news for later when we get Hosana and the sun setting. You might find then he's going to get a little bit more active, and even though he's fed today, it still won't stop him from going after some food and actually trying. Now, the position that we're in now is really nice because we can see all of him, but I might just loop around just so that we can get some close-ups of his face and just change the angle up a little bit. Andrea, you're wondering what the name for Hosana means. Well, Hosana means the little chief, so that's basically what his name means, or little prince. And so it was given to him by Brent and James and all of the Vuatela guides, and it's because he comes from the royal lineage, which is from Karula. So she was the Queen of Djuma, and then Tingana, the Duke of Djuma, and so it just seemed fitting to give him a kind of royal name. Now, I'm going to try and just quickly get around and try and see if we can see his face and get a little bit of a different angle. And while I do that, I believe Brent's other spotted cats are starting to wake up.
They're indeed very slowly waking up, occasionally glancing at the passing herds of zebra. There is a definitely more grooming, but more stretching, which are all really good signs that they are about to get up and get on the move. So very exciting. And as I say, I'm very excited. I haven't spent that much time with the border boys. Now, as I said a while ago, as we learn more about the Mara and we work through more of the Mara, we will be expanding our reach in terms of signal and comms and everything, and we're going to be able to discover incredible new creatures. And oh, what have you spotted? There are some topi up there. I wonder if there's a baby that started running around that might have attracted. There is. I think that's exactly it. See those topi over there, Craig? I think there's a baby a little bit to the right. There we go. I thought I saw a tiny baby there playing, moving around. Now that is something that will definitely pique the border boys' interest. Now, a young topi, much easier to catch than an adult, and also gives them a chance to feed on it before it's possibly stolen by hyenas or lions, both which are quite common in this area down south. That male has locked on at that little topi running around and playing. I didn't do it. Is it the light that's making these cheetah look more golden, or are they actually more golden? These are quite golden boys, but it is definitely the light. We have absolutely superb light at the moment. Oh, roll over. And speaking of that, I just want to move a little bit around, because I think they are going to head towards where those topi are. Let's give you a little bit of an idea about how absolutely gorgeous the Mara is this evening. So the sun is setting due west of these boys, and look at that. And especially with this Balanites woodland that dots the plains here, it is absolutely stunning. We can see the laser-like focus on the back guy watching those topi, particularly where that little one was. I thought they might head south closer to Tanzania. There's big herds of zebra there, but that baby topi might change the plan completely. He's definitely far more interested in looking around than grooming himself at the moment. What's he seen down there? I can see some zebras in the distance. Just zebras that way. Now, we can almost see all the way up the Salt Lake river system. So, Craigie, if you keep going a little bit to the left there, sort of right there where you are now. So, right up there is where we were with that male lion about an hour or so ago. But right there in the distance, where my finger is. Hi, Francis, who's in Israel. Francis is wondering how we managed to identify the cheetah. Well, the cheetah do have individual spot patterns, but this particular two boys are well known. This is their territory, and they'll defend it against other males. Now, one of them has got very raggedy ears and makes them quite easy to identify. These two were mating with a female called Musiara or Rani, and she's got a couple of different names, a while ago. So that she had cubs on the other side of the river. Now, female cheetah will travel massive different distances to encounter different males and to be able to mate with them. Here we go. Second one's woken up to the fact that there might be baby topi on the menu tonight. It is just the most magic time of the day. It's also the best time of the day to be with cheetahs. So they do hunt throughout the day. However, their prime hunting is this last hour before sunset and the last hour after sunset. That is when they have their most success. And out of all the big cats, they're actually often more successful than lion and leopard. However, the biggest problem they face is that their kills are often stolen by lion, leopard, or hyena. So what are we going to have tonight, boys? Zebra or topi? Or surprise us with an oribi? Now, that's another thing that I've noticed the cheetah and the Mara hunt quite frequently is the little oribi antelope. Keep checking all around us. Well, we're going to sit with these cheetah and we'll be back as soon as they move a muscle. But while we wait here, Jamie's doing a bit of birding with a very smelly bird.
Oh, two smelly bird making more smelly birds, actually. Your timing was pretty perfect as the sun goes down. Obviously, the beautiful sunset has put the ideas of romance into the vultures' heads. And we've just moved around to see if I can find the little cubs, and I've been distracted by a group of white-backed vultures. Not often we get to see them mating, so this is actually really very cool. Very, very cool indeed. Usually when they gather together in large numbers around a carcass, then you'll get mating scenes like this one. Listen, I don't know if you can hear it over the wind. Can you hear that or not really? Not impressed with him. It takes a little bit of maneuvering, that whole process, because of course he's got to align everything correctly, which is tricky when you're balancing on a dead branch. So the vultures have gathered here because this apparently was where the lions had a zebra carcass yesterday. Obviously they've finished that up and the vultures have picked a large portion of it clean. There's still a rib cage hanging around. But what I was hoping for, and what I'll go and chat to the guides about in a little bit, what I was hoping for, hi guys, was the, you've just been watching lion cubs play. You can't possibly be that miserable. What I was hoping for was that the little cubs would be hidden in their den site. I don't see any sign of them, but I'm certain that they're still around somewhere here. And what I'm hoping to do is to sit patiently, wait for that other lioness to come back, and then presumably she'll go call them out. I really don't think she would have moved them far away from where they were. There's the ribcage, by the way. They've spent so much time around here, and all of our previous encounters with lions with small cubs is that while they might move specific den sites, they don't usually cover enormous distances with those small cubs. And I said it rained, and it certainly has, and it's going to again, by the looks of things. Very dramatic skies this evening. And I don't think enough for the lioness to have moved her cubs out of this drainage line completely. Okay, romancing vultures. Are you done for the evening now? They do make such iconic silhouettes, don't they? Oh, whoops. Okay. Here we go again. We're gonna... I thought they were going to mate again. That was interesting. One nearly fell out of the tree completely, bowled over by the other. A little bit of vying for best position there. Often when you see them like this, when they are mating, is it sets off a chain reaction. So the one male will mate with the female, and then the second male will step up and he will mate with the female, and so on. So while they do raise their chicks together as monogamous pairs, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are completely faithful throughout the year to their breeding partner. And I've seen as many as 6 males mate with the same female around a giraffe carcass. Hunched over, looking very much like something out of a Jungle Book. Kathy, you would like to know what the official rules are for keeping a bird list. I'm quite hesitant to put strict rules on the whole process, because I think that might detract from the fun that our viewers have in keeping the bird list. But the idea would be that, for you as viewers, the idea would be that we either have to put the bird on screen, or we maybe could do it by call if we can't find the bird itself. But essentially for us, we don't count it as having shown you a bird unless it goes on camera. So us taking a photograph or showing you a picture of a bird that we saw doesn't count, but us managing, and I say us, I have to say it's largely the work of our cameramen, who have to really be on the ball when it comes to birds. But we will, once we spot a bird, we'll show it to you, the cameraman will show it to you, and we'll tell you exactly what it is, and you can add it onto your bird list. Other than that, there are no real rules, to be honest. You can choose exactly how you go about it. If there's certain birds, I think, well, it's because we haven't been bird challenging in the Mara, which we kind of should do, I think. We usually do our bird challenges on Djuma, but I think that for newer viewers, it probably makes collecting the bird list quite difficult, because we don't always stop for the more obvious ones anymore. Maybe we should do that more often. All right, we've enjoyed the sunset scenery. We're going to go back towards our lion cubs. Let's go and enjoy some sunset scenery with Scott. Alliteration.
Well, it certainly sounds like an interesting affair over there with Jamie and those vultures and some beautiful sunset scenes. We have also found ourselves in a magical spot. Look at that. And it's not often we get a sunset from this kind of a vantage point. Often we're a little bit lower down and the escarpment is in the way of it. So really enjoying this, and the fact that there's not too many clouds swallowing up the sun, which it often does in the evenings at the moment, means we are getting spoilt with a magical sunset. Look at that. And also some interesting stuff over with Brent and those two cheetah. I hope that little topi doesn't venture much closer to them. Everything seems quite calm and peaceful here. No immediate predators in the vicinity. Of course, there could be some sneaking up on the zebra as we speak, but there hasn't been any signs of distress. So it seems like these guys are okay for now, although there is a pride of lion that does like to frequent this area, the Egyptian goose pond pride. So maybe we'll bump into them. Beautiful, well done, Seb. Very fancy camera work. Hello, Ben. Good to have you on board. You'd like to know how long do the kind of average prey animals live for in the Mara, and it fluctuates greatly between, there's so many different prey species, from the small little dik-dik, who will live for probably about 12 to 15 years, and then on average, I would say anywhere between 10 and 20 years would be the average kind of lifespan, covering the board from small herbivores to the bigger ones. But then, of course, you get random outliers like hippo and not crocodiles, rhinos, who can live to about 40, elephants to about 60, buffalo into their 20s would be a good innings. So it does differ between the different species. Look at that. Whew. That is most beautiful. It's a very still and peaceful evening out here. There's a very gentle breeze blowing, which is quite a relief. It was a warm day, and loving the change of temperature at the moment as we head off into our summer. It's not going to be a drastic change from the winter, because we are only a few hundred miles south of the equator, so the seasons are not hugely different. Let's have a close look here. As peaceful as the scene is, there are two zebra that clearly trying to work out who is the boss. It's these two that are standing kind of head to tail here on the left of the road, Seb. Yes, those two. No, the one was biting the other one on its ankle, and they can be quite ferocious, actually, zebra, fighting amongst one another, killing foals. You get rogue herds of these stallions, young bucks like this, that'll come in and kill foals as they flare. Oh, here we go. They can also be quite nasty to predators. Small animals like jackal, possibly even cheetah, can be nipped and bitten, maybe leopard as well. I've never been lucky enough to see a zebra chasing off a predator, but they do it. And as you can see, they like biting. Biting. Ooh! Oh no! Good work with the punch zoom there. I mean, look at that! I mean, why is that zebra tolerating that? I mean, maybe it's more gentle nibbles than we think, and kind of a playful wrestling, as young adolescent human boys often do. Now, as entertaining as they are, I think the sunset will possibly be worthy of upstaging them. So let's swivel across there quickly. Cha-ching! Look at that. Well, if that doesn't want to make you come out here and experience an African sunset for yourself, I'm not sure what will. So if you can make a plan, book a trip out here. It would be wonderful to cross paths with you on your safari. We see quite a few people who do join in on the shows, and it's always wonderful to touch bases with people who have been following us along on these safaris from all over the world. Now, we would love to have a one-word tweet from all of you guys to describe how you're feeling and the beauty of this scene. Off you go. I will be thinking about mine. I've got Wi-Fi on the vehicle, so I can also tweet my thought. Maybe I should do that. Don't forget to hashtag Safari Live on your one-word tweet, of course. Hello, Francis in Israel. You've said that this is peaceful, and it certainly is a very, very peaceful scene we are enjoying here. You guys can possibly hear the zebra's hooves and their little squeaks. But we are going to stay on the sunset, I think. It would be rude to leave it. Hello, Christine. Thank you for sending through your one-word tweet. And you say that it is pristine. I always find it fascinating how quickly this last section goes, so watch closely. And it doesn't get much better than this, guys. If it is your first time joining us on Safari Live, please let us know. It's always wonderful to hear of somebody that stumbled upon us, and we'll give you a special shout out. So do get a hold of us. All we need now is a lion to start roaring off in the distance. That would seal the deal. Well, I've got some good news. Even though the sun is about to set here, it's not the case down south on Djuma with Tristan. And as our sun dips behind the Olololo escarpment, we are going to be sending you further south till the still bright and sunny South Africa with Tristan and a beautiful young leopard.
It is still bright and sunny. You can see that the sun is still glowing very brightly above the horizon. Now, for those that have just joined us, my name is Tristan, and Hosanna is still flat and sleepy and is really taking a big nap. He's got this massive belly at the moment, so he looks as though he's like a beach ball lying there. You can see, look at the size of that tummy. Very well-fed individual, and he is lying ever so peacefully in this cool muddy area, and he's got his foot propped up against the bank there. He's had the odd fly problem to deal with this afternoon, but nothing too major. Otherwise, he's had a really good nap. There's been a couple birds that have flown past that haven't even disturbed him, so he really seems to be just enjoying the fact that he's in a bit of shade as it's starting to cool down now. Oh yeah, if a lioness came up towards Hosanna, he would first and foremost probably run for his life and try and get out of here and into a tree. But let's say he couldn't get to a tree and he wasn't able to get into any point of safety, the lioness will most certainly try kill him. So they would definitely fight, and the lioness would try kill him. And in fact, the Styx Pride has killed a couple of leopards in this particular area, and then if you go into Londolozi and Mara Mara to the south of us, well, there's a lot of leopards that have been killed there by lions as well. So a lion is a serious threat for a leopard. Now, there's a bird that's just landed up on the dead tree at the moment. That's one that we don't see very often, so I'm going to ask VM if he can show it to you. So up on the top of that dead leadwood, sorry VM, my fault, there's presenter light in the way of where VM is at the moment. There we go, VM, is that better? So poor VM is struggling with the light that shines on my face when it's dark, and that's why he couldn't get his zoom rocker in place. But there we go. So there is a purple roller that is sitting on top. Now, these rollers are not birds that we see that often. We see more of the lilac-breasted roller, and as the months are coming now towards December, we'll start to see the European roller. But this is still a very pretty bird. I do like the purple rollers. They've got this white speckled markings. Now, I believe Brent's cheetah are up, so let's quickly go back to him.
Okay, guys, they've spotted that baby topi. They are now locked in. Becca, I think it might be also time to let our friends on Facebook join us, as they are heading straight towards that baby topi. There's actually looks like there could be more than one baby topi in that herd. I can see one very, very young, very, very wobbly on its legs. There we go, the one at the back. And you can see that one's younger than the one in the front. And I think that is, oh, there's a third as well. Third and fourth baby topi. So there's lots of options for these two, and they are hungry. Welcome, everyone. We are with two male cheetah who have just spotted some tiny little baby topi antelope. They are really hungry. They are hunting, and there we go. You can see the baby topi there amongst the adults. There's a couple of them that look like they might have even been born today. Now, if you're a predator, this is perfect. My name is Brent. My cameraman is Craig, and we are on a live cheetah hunt. Look at that focus on them. The topi are inadvertently coming closer and closer. I cannot move my car. They were sleeping, and now all of a sudden they are up. Look at that. The topi have not seen these cheetah yet. This is very exciting. If you want to ask me a question, just pop it on the feed below. I would love to hear from you. We are in Kenya, in the Maasai Mara Game Reserve, in the Mara Triangle. We're right down on this in the southern end, close to the border with Tanzania, with the two cheetah, the coalition of two male cheetah that is called the Border Boys. Those topi are going to run directly opposite. I think the boys thought they were getting really lucky, and the topi might run directly into them. So there they go. Quite a few zebra as well. Now, the topi are not running because of the cheetah. They have not spotted the cheetah. It is an absolutely gorgeous evening here. Hi, Aiden, who's 6 years old, who wants to know what is a cheetah's favorite food. Aiden, well, like most predators, it's anything they can catch. But normally with cheetah, well, 2 males, topi, young wildebeest, young zebra, any baby of any animal, because it's easier to catch. And there's a lot of food around here on this plain. Hi, Blade. Blade's wondering why are the cheetah not bothered by me? Do they not notice me? They don't notice me as a person, Blade. I'm in my safari vehicle, which has only been around for about 100 years, so they do not have an instinctive response. However, if I was to get out of the car and they could see my bipedal figure, they would run away. So they're not bothered by my safari vehicle. It doesn't smell like anything to eat, and if you drive carefully and considerately around the animals, they actually completely ignore it. And that goes the same for the topi and the zebra, oh, excuse me, the lions, hyenas, and everything else out here. Oh, there's a Coke's hartebeest in amongst there as well. Now, this is a cheetah's favorite time of the day to hunt. Now, Heather is wondering, are other herds of animals having babies at the moment, like the topi? No, Heather. There are certain animals that might have babies, such as impala, but in this area they breed all year round. Zebra are having babies, but again, they breed all year round. Topi, almost exclusively September, October. Hi, Chris. Chris says, if the cheetah get one of the baby topies, will the adults try save it? Sometimes yes, Chris. Sometimes no. You never can be 100% sure how that mother is going to react. I have seen them on occasion try save, but on other times I have just seen them get out of there as fast as possible. Now, as I was saying, as it gets a little bit darker, this is the cheetah's favorite time to hunt. They are crepuscular hunters, but like all predators, they will take opportunities at any time of the day, but their favorite time of the day is right now. The last hour before sunset, an hour after sunset, and also going through into the first hour before dawn and the last hour after dawn. They're on the move. Okay. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to try and move. I'm not going to drive behind them. I don't want to disturb the hunt, so I'm going to move off to the side to try and put us in the best position to see where they might run to. Space was wondering, how often are cheetahs successful on the hunt? More so than lions and leopards. They've got a success rate of above 20%, but the problem is they lose their kills a lot of the time to hyenas and to lions. So I'm just trying to see where they're going. So I want to be where they're going to end up. Now, a lot of the baby topi have moved off, so they might have spotted something else I can't see. Let's get here. There could be a baby zebra around. How's that, Craig? Okay. So there's a lot of animals around here, spread throughout the plain. Baby topi are still running around and playing. Hi, Sharon. Sharon would like to know, will they go for one animal or will they split up? Sharon, that completely depends. Sometimes with babies, they might go for 2 different ones, but if it's something bigger, they'll generally focus on the same animal. There we go, they're now just waiting again. Looking for any sign of weakness amongst the herds. Hi, Ben in North Dakota. Ben is wondering, do cheetahs normally travel in pairs? Well, Ben, males, yes, they form coalitions. It enables them to control a larger home range and defend against other males more easily, and also have access to more females. Females, however, are solitary unless they're with cubs. There is a very brief period of about 6 months to a year if two females from one mother survive and are become independent from their mother, they will stay together for a while. Sometimes as long as a year, but normally a bit shorter. But when you see two or more adult cheetah together, it's normally a group of males. Now, the biggest coalition of cheetah ever recorded in the world is in the Mara, on the other side of the river, and that is a coalition of 5 males. This was originally 3 males until one was killed by lions. But it looks like they decided the Topi got too far away, so they're going to have a little bit of a play with each other. Yes. Hi, guys. Now, a lot of that playing and touching and grooming is very important when it comes to affirming the bonds in a cheetah coalition. They haven't quite given up on the hunt just yet. Is there a baby zebra right here that I didn't even notice? Craig, just have a look here. Oh, it's maybe not a baby, maybe a sub-adult. Behind. Oh no, they're quite big. Hi, Teddy Bear. Teddy Bear is wondering, how close do the cheetahs like to be before giving chase? A cheetah will run a lot further away than other animals, sometimes as far as 50 or 60 meters. But generally, like with all predators, the closer the better. Now, patience is obviously very important for the big cats when it comes to hunting. If you go too soon, you alert all the animals to your presence, and makes hunting a lot harder. So at the moment, no one knows that the boys are out and on the hunt, and they're just taking their time, seeing if they can pick up any form of weakness amongst the herds, or maybe waiting for it to get a little bit darker, where their eyesight's a little bit better than the Topi and zebra, and then use that little bit of darkness to their advantage. Oh, swat! That was a very, very friendly swat, that was. Oh, here comes that. Oh, he was going to stretch, and he saw something. And thought, maybe that looks quite good. Now, Eric's wondering, do cheetah lose teeth similar to humans? For example, milk teeth? Indeed, they do. Most of the big cats will lose their milk teeth at around 5 or 6 months old when they're weaned, and then grow their adult teeth. But they only get 2 sets of teeth, just like us. Although we have the added benefit of being able to get new ones from the dentist. They don't. So those teeth are very, very important, of course, because they do use them to get their meals. Very patient boys. Now, if they were younger cheetah, they might have botched it by rushing towards the baby Topi too early. The adults would have been aware and been able to scamper those little ones to safety. Now, for those who might have joined us a little bit late, this is 100% live from the Maasai Mara in Kenya, and it looks like they're going to wait a little bit until it's a bit darker before they attempt to hunt again. But don't worry, we will be right here with them I'm going to be staying with them after dark. We have infrared technology that enables us to see in the dark. So keep a lookout on that Facebook notification, because you never know when we could be live again. Oh, well, we're going to stick with these beautiful boys. While we do that, let's head back to Tristan, who apparently doesn't need to use infrared lights with Hasana.
We don't, Brent. The sun is just dipped over the horizon now, and so it's still quite light, and we can still see Hosanna absolutely perfectly. So it is perfect weather, and it's now cooling right down. The wind is settled right down as well, which means that it's going to be good conditions for Hosanna probably to start hopefully waking up a little bit. The flies are starting to drive him absolutely crazy. You can see them buzzing around his ear every now and then, and his ear flicking. So I would imagine that we're going to see a situation where Hosanna is going to start to wake up slowly but surely. There's a much cooler feel to the air now than there was about half an hour ago. And so what I'm hoping is going to happen is that from here the flies are going to drive him mad enough that he's going to pop his head up and maybe go for a little drink and get a nice bit of moisture, and then from there start to walk around and see what's around him. Although judging by the size of that belly, I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to sleep for the afternoon. It seems as though he's got a really nice full tummy, and so there's not too much motivation for our young boy to move too much from where he is now. Also, it's a good place to be because there will be lots of other animals that potentially could come drink here during the course of the evening, as it's now cooling down. So you'll find things like impalas and yala and various other antelope species slowly but surely making their way towards this area. Now, if you watch his ears carefully, you can actually see the little biting flies landing in his ears and flittering about and absolutely crazy. So they've gone now, but there were some just now that were there. They come. As they land, he'll try and flick his ear as an automatic response. The hairs there are very sensitive, and that's going to absolutely drive him crazy. And so he'll do that for a while, and when it doesn't work, the paw will come and swipe and try and get rid of them, and eventually you'll find he'll start biting and snapping at them to try and get rid of them. This Mr. P, say you can't believe how big Hosanna's gotten. I know, he is getting rather large, isn't he? He's starting to get that bulky male leopard appearance, and it's amazing to have watched him develop. I obviously didn't see much of him as a cub. I did see them fairly young. I think the first time that little cubs.
Oh dear, we're sorry about that. Tristan's vanished, but that's okay. He's going to go off in search of a signal, I'm sure, and we're still with our lovely lion family, the lioness and 4 cubs who seem to have exhausted themselves after a long day of playing tug-of-war with a blanket. And they're settled with the lioness. She's now awake, listening and looking in the direction of the first lioness that we saw this afternoon. But we're going to wait, and we're going to see exactly how this situation plays out. If that other lioness comes back, if she is in fact the mother of the youngest cubs. We still haven't seen them since that first night when the little one yowled constantly. Very, very close to where we are now. And we're just going to wait and see exactly how it all plays out. There's something odd about this lioness that I can't quite put my finger on. She doesn't... I don't quite know what it is. I suppose it could be a sore stomach or something like that. But the way that she moves, it's not a sore limb. She's not limping. But the way that she moves and the way that she shifts her weight around, to me looks like there's something that's uncomfortable. I can't quite work out exactly what it is. I suppose it could even be a strained muscle in her back or something like that, although I think she'd be limping if that was the case. She's not limping. She's just moving gingerly, if that makes any sense. Let me keep a watch on her. See if you can see what I mean when she does get up. The way that she moves, the way that she sort of gets up and then lies down again. It's like she's moving in slow motion. Might just be that she's tired, I suppose. And not really particularly enthusiastic about things. Now, earlier on, for those of you that perhaps have just jumped on board with our sunset safari, the lioness that we saw, she's probably about 700 odd yards away from where we are now. She was roaring. She roared a few times, actually, and this other lioness didn't respond to her, even though they are pride mates. But now that it's dark, there's a good chance that she will. I'm just going to sit and wait and see. The aim? No, I wouldn't say that lions are the loudest animals in the safari range. They are loud, and something that I learned from our viewers is that it's a roar of 114 decibels in terms of their volume. But I would say that elephants are capable of producing screams that are louder than that of a lion. And of course, it also depends on frequency. Because remember, elephants can produce really low rumbles that actually travel enormous distances, further than a lion's roar can. And it just so happens that it's at a frequency that we can't pick up. So there's different frequencies or different sounds that the animals produce. But an elephant scream or an elephant trumpet, I would say, carries very, very far. I also think a spotted hyena's whoop, because of the pitch that it's at, I think also carries particularly far as well. But a lion roar, there's nothing like a lion roar right next to you. It shakes the entire vehicle. Rebecca says that that she thinks our camp is the loudest, or are the loudest animals in the Mara. Certainly your tent, Rebecca. Taylor's moved in with Rebecca for a brief period of time. Rebecca says I'm rude. Brent Leo Smith comes close as well to being the loudest creature in the Mara. Wind's starting to pick up. Good hunting weather for these lionesses. But we're here to see if those cubs come out. Now, typically when the cubs are very, very young, the mother will spend more time with them. She'll actually move backwards and forwards between the den site and wherever the rest of the pride happen to be, and she'll do that quite regularly. As the cubs get older, the frequency of those visits will decrease, and she'll actually possibly only come and visit them twice or maybe 3 times a day to check up on them. She'll visit them at sunset, and then she'll come back at sunrise. Obviously, that's not an absolute. Just checking to see if she's coming back, but it doesn't look like it. I hope our patience is rewarded. I mean, it has already been. Watching those little ones play is reward in itself. But I really do hope she comes back, because ever since that night that we saw that tiny baby cub, I've been dying to see it again, and I've tried a few times and just not been lucky. I hope that tonight is different. I hope tonight's our night. And back to sleep we go. Oh. There's a hippo moving about that drainage line. That's what I think she's listening to. Yeah, she's just looking at the hippo. It is over there. Can you see it there? No. Is the pole in the way?
Too much glare off my friend the pole.
Okay. Ferg says, unfortunately, there's too much glare off the roof support. But there is a hippo there that she's looking at. It's even hard for me to see, to be honest. Well, that's what's attracted her attention. 2 buffalo moved through earlier, but they gave the lions a wide berth and left them alone. our sleepy lions are not going anywhere just yet, so I think this is the perfect opportunity to send you across to Hosanna, who's being harassed by flies.
Well, he's also just about as sleepy as Jamie's lions, by the sounds of things. He's really not done very much. The odd swiping of the paw and the odd rolling around, but otherwise, Hosanna is still sleeping away and sure enjoying the coolness of the encroaching night at this stage of the game. He's probably had a tough day of heat. It's been a warm day, and we've had a few days of cooler weather, so it would have been a bit of a shock to the system. And VM tells me that this morning it was very cold when they started out, and so to have a situation where it's gone up to almost 38, 37 degrees, somewhere around there in Celsius, has really gone quite warm quite quickly, and I believe tomorrow is going to be another hot one as well. And VM assures me that this wind that is blowing the whole day is a sign of changing weather, so I wonder if we're not going to get some more rain coming at some stage soon. I'm sure Asana would appreciate some more water and some cooler weather again after the sort of hot conditions that we've had over the past sort of 12 hours and continuing through tomorrow and onward in the week. I believe it's going to be, it gets as close to sort of 40 degrees, which is, I think, about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's starting to get up to those summer temperatures. But isn't he cute when he lies like that, when he kind of folds his head down and crosses his paws? He really is a funny little cat, this, and it seems as though the flies are just giving him so much trouble that he's trying to almost tuck his ears in so that they don't go in there, and it stops sort of irritating him and causing him to be uncomfortable. So it's quite funny watching him in the battle of the flies. Janet, you're asking why I think that the lions always seem to have more flies and bugs on them than the leopards do. It's an interesting question, Janet. I'm not 100% sure why that is the case. It's definitely noticeable. I mean, you see, particularly the lions, they tend to have a lot of flies on their muzzles and around their noses. Maybe it's because the leopards are just that much more active at keeping them off you. I mean, you can see Hosanna, even though he's sleeping, he's constantly pawing at his face, flicking his ears, whereas lions sometimes just give up and allow the flies to just kind of mass on them. But I'm not 100% sure. It's an interesting kind of observation and one that certainly holds some truth. But as to why it happens, it's one of those little bush mysteries that we have out here. There's a lot of those kind of things that goes on. Maybe somebody out there has an answer to it, or somebody has studied it. I certainly haven't read anything that sort of suggests as to why lions would be favored over leopard, but maybe there is some reason for it. It also could be the concentration of animals. Generally, lions are in bigger groupings together. That might attract more flies. I'm not 100% sure. It really is quite an interesting sort of thought, and I don't know. I'll do a bit of research and try and see if I can find out, but I honestly have no idea why lions would have more than what leopards do. Megan reckons lions are just stinkier. What do you think, Wildy? You reckon smellier, or do you reckon it's just because there's more of them? Smellier. Yeah, Liam's is nodding his head and he says they're definitely more filthy than what the leopards are, or filthier, should I say. So it is a situation that lions tend to be maybe a little bit more on the manky side, and that's why they end up with a situation where it gets a lot more flies. Now, there's going to be a vehicle that's going to come past us shortly, so I do apologize about the noise as it does meander past our vehicle. Hopefully we don't end up being hit by said vehicle, because it is quite a tight space. But oh, there your eyes are. We have not, I don't think, seen Hosanna with his eyes open since we arrived at the beginning of the sighting. I thought the vehicle might wake him up, but alas, he's back to sleep again. Right, now it sounds like our sleepy cat has been trumped by Jamie's sleepy lions, because they sound like they're getting up and moving. And so before they vanish, let's jump across to Jamie.
Unfortunately, what's even worse is that the sleeping lions are getting up and disappearing. Now, we thought we'd show you one last glimpse, but I have to say that is literally the last glimpse. There goes the lioness, leading them into the lugger, I think to move them away from the buffalo. There's a whole load of buffalo bulls that have emerged behind me, and I think the lioness has just decided to take the cubs to safety. She might also be taking them to have a drink. That is also possible. I don't know if you're going to be able to see them, Ferg. I think most of them are still behind us. But I think that's it. I think that's the end of our lion sighting, unfortunately. Try move forward, but I suspect we're done. Nope. Nope. Our lions have gone. I'm going to go and find the other lioness, see if she leads us back to the den site. Let's go back to Brent and his cheetah boys.
Well, they walked away from where all the topi are, and they're having a little rest on top of the crest. A bit of a roll about. They have been licking some buffalo dung. Now, we have seen leopard do that as well, and they use it as a bit of a probiotic to get bacteria into their stomachs. So that's what the one at the back is doing at the moment, licking buffalo dung. Now, Gina's wondering, do cheetahs sleep 20 hours like lions do? They do not, Gina. They're far more active. They probably sleep, difficult to say, but I'd say probably 12, 13, maybe 14 hours. They will tend to move now till about 8:39 if they're on patrol, particularly boys. And then they'll sleep through till about 3:34 in the morning. And then they'll be very active again till about 10, and then they might snooze, and they might get moving again. So I'm going to use the spotlight to see if there's anything up ahead of them. Unfortunately, I've got a feeling we might lose them to Tanzania unless they spot something before we get to the border, which is getting closer and closer. So they're just off to the left of us. So you can see this is when our infrared lights are off. Outside, if I turn off that light, you can see it's completely pitch black apart from the light that's shining on me. Now, I don't want to fall. There we go. See, I don't want to drive into rocks or holes. So I'm not driving directly behind them. I don't want to illuminate them to any possible prey that's around. Or even worse, to lions or anything that might be around as well. Oh, some rocks. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's a puddle there as well. Oh, there's a wallow. I'm getting into a bit of a rocky area now. I might turn on my top light, so that just helps me see the rocks that I might miss in my headlights while I'm driving off-road and in the dark. Okay, well, oh, hang on. Have they noticed something? I see there's a lot of eyes up ahead of me, and it looks like they've suddenly taken notice. And they've stopped walking. You can see there's quite a bit of wind and the dust that's being brought up from them. Now, I'm not sure what they are yet. They could be zebra, they could be wildebeest, they could be topi. They're a bit far away for me to see, even with the spotlight. Is he still looking that way, thinking about it? I think they are topi that they're looking at. Oh, are we going to have a change of direction? Please, away from the Tanzanian border. No, they seem more interested in patrolling this evening than hunting, even though they are hungry. They're not starving, but they are definitely hungry. I think if the right prey happened to chance upon them, they might take advantage of that. But it looks like they're going to keep moving slightly towards the east. Well, we're going to stick with them. Hopefully they do decide to go have a little dash at something before dinner. But while we do that, let's go across to another absolutely gorgeous spotted cat back on Djuma.
Well, we were looking at the spotted cat when a whole flock of red-billed quellias came over, which has awoken Hosanna. There was also something else that disturbed him. He shot bolt upright and was looking, and then he even started to sort of chuff a little bit. So there was some fork-tailed drongos making a noise. We can't see anything else around us. I don't know if maybe he thought the drongo's alarm calling meant another leopard was approaching, that he just started to chuff because he heard them alarm calling. But he definitely woke up and stared in a direction behind us, back towards where that kill was and back towards where Tundi and he were this morning. So I don't know, maybe there's somebody else that's lurking around. It would be really a welcome sight to see another spotted cat ambling towards this waterhole. But at this stage, it seems as though he's now lost interest. You can see, I love when leopards look up like that. It's just the best thing. They kind of have this curious sort of stare to them as they look into the trees and look into the sky. Maybe he's also seeing some more of those quellias coming along, but at least we're seeing an awake Hosanna rather than a sleepy one. Of course, now he's going to put his head back down. Steffi, you're asking, is there a reason why leopards have no spots on their nose? Is it genetic? Well, there's obviously a genetic element to it that they don't have spots on their nose, but you'll probably find it forms some sort of a function. And now the reason for it is it probably is there. One is to not create a lot of darkness towards the eyes, so more light is being allowed in, particularly at night. You see they've got that white marking underneath the eyes, and so maybe a cleaner nose is just helping with getting light in. You see he's a bit jumpy, isn't he? He's kind of looking in that direction, a lot of staring happening, and he seems to be a bit on the jumpy side. But there's probably something to do with the light, allowing light in, as well as the fact that for camouflage purposes you might find that maybe that coloration, if it was too spotty, might just allow him to be seen as he kind of picks his nose up over the grass when they're looking at prey animals. Sometimes they'll kind of flatten their head down and they try and pick their nose up, and those spots might give him away, particularly in the dry brown wintry grass. Could be something to do with that as well, but it will be a genetic reason, that they have different spots on their faces, and some will have a few spots closer towards the sort of bridge of the nose, and others will have some that encroach just on the sides of the nose. That is all genetic, but the reason why most leopards don't have spots on their nose itself is probably something to do with light coming into their eyes as well as camouflage reasons. I don't think Hosanna is going to lie here much longer. I think the flies are irritating him beyond all belief. So I think he's going to get to a situation where he's going to get tired of them. We're going to start seeing him possibly yawning. And then from there, maybe he's going to take us on an evening stroll along one of these roads. Now, it's going to be interesting to see where he heads from here. I surmise he might head towards Treehouse and along that direction. He could obviously head back towards Chelapan side and Twin Dams, but I think he's going to go to Treehouse. He hasn't been to Treehouse for quite some time, and so that's where I think he's going to go. Now, there are some frogs calling here, and for the life of me, I can't remember which ones they are. There are a lot of different types of frogs, and they make a lot of interesting calls, and because of the rain that we've had, I would imagine that some of them are starting to come out, and it's one of those things where you've got to try and jog one's memory. They're not calling currently now, they've just stopped, but you've got to kind of jog your memory again from summer to remember all of the calls, and I'm just trying to think of which call it could be. So I've got my frog app out and I'm just trying to get some of the calls out. So if you hear random calls, it is me. I'm trying to work out which one it is. No, it's not them. So I thought it might be golden leaf folding frog, but it's not them. I'm just trying to think which other one it could have been. Now, the noise you're hearing now is actually an insect. That's not a frog at all. The frogs were calling just now. They've stopped completely, though. So we'll just wait. If I hear them again, then we'll try and keep quiet so that you can all hear them as well. But it's so good to be hearing frogs again. I absolutely love doing a bit of frogging and looking for them and listening to them. The best thing in this deep summer is when you park at one of these pans and this cacophony of noise that comes out. It's deafening as you sit here and you try and work out all these different species of frogs that are calling. It's quite wonderful. And last year we had the most amazing bullfrogs that were all over the place after the drought, and they were wrestling and fighting and mating, and it was really interesting to watch. And I think we had a couple mornings where we sat with frogs for quite some time, and so hopefully we're going to get more of that this year. I'm really hoping we're going to see quite a number of bullfrogs, and hopefully lots of other different species of frogs as well, from the stream frogs to the cassinas and all the others that go along with them. Hosanna, what's going on? He seems very jumpy. He almost seems as though he's a bit aware. Maybe it's because he hasn't spent much time in this particular area for quite a while. You know, he's been spending a lot of time around Twin Dams and Treehouse, but we haven't seen him really walking around this section very much at all recently. And so maybe he's just a bit nervous of what's going on. You might be also wondering where Tundi is, and you know, it's one of those situations where the fly's annoying him already, and now any other sounds around him could potentially mean that he's getting a little bit on the sort of wary side, and that's why he's a bit jumpy. But at least it's nice that he's waking up a bit. It's a good sign for us, and like I say, hopefully he's going to take us on an afternoon stroll. I'm surprised that we actually haven't seen any antelope moving to this area. This is a favorite pan for the Nyala. You tend to find Nyala drink here quite a lot. It might be that the Nyala have got other places that they're drinking at the moment in the Mulawati area, and that's why they haven't come to this section just yet. But I'm surprised. Generally see them there, but look at how beautiful that sky is. Proud cat mama. Domestic cats and leopards, I suppose there are some behaviors that are shared and that are kind of, you see in both of them, from, you know, sharpening of claws on trees to the way that they, you know, scent mark. Their mating behaviors are pretty similar. And then, you know, when catching flies like this, a domestic cat would do the exact same thing if flies were around it. Grooming processes are very similar on both domestic cats and big cats. So there are a lot of similarities, yes. There's obviously a few differences as well. Domestic cats have it a lot easier than what you see from these bigger cats, but they are essentially very, very similar in the way that they behave, in the way that they go about things. And, you know, obviously there's slight differences in the lions in terms of that they are quite sort of tight-knit, bonded pride units, as opposed to leopards that are more solitary, which is, I suppose, a bit more like domestic cats. Domestic cats, even though they live in households sometimes with other cats, they tend to be more on their own kind of mission and do their own thing and try and move around on their own accord. They don't really walk around in prides together. They might join up for feeding time and food time, but otherwise not really too worried. So there are a lot of similarities in like I say, in their sort of daily life, but there's also a lot of differences in the way they go about things too. But you can see a small yawn starting. I don't think it's going to be long and Hosanna is going to be up and moving. I think we have got a few more minutes and then he's going to be walking. But while we wait for him to wake up and decide to start moving around and take us for a walk, I believe Jamie's lions have started to wake up, started to groom, and are doing their best in Hosanna impression.
She is indeed doing a Hosanna impression, cleaning her paws and cleaning her face, which I assume is what Hosanna's been up to as he starts to wake up. This is the lioness that we stopped at first, a little bit further downstream from where the second lioness and those 4 cubs disappeared. And while we've lost them, we still have her. And she was particularly vocal earlier this afternoon, so I'm hoping that she might continue to roar. I don't think she's the mother of the little cubs, and the reason that I don't think that, although it's hard to tell with infrared light, but I don't think it's her because I don't see any suckle marks. So I don't think that this lioness has cubs, which means we're missing one lioness, which would be the mother of the little ones. She could have been lying in that drainage line the entire time, although I don't think so. Actually, maybe she does have suckle marks. Take that back. Could be. It is hard to tell with infrared light. I don't know. It's all very mysterious, but true to form, just as our lioness is waking up, it sounds like Hosanna is doing the same.
Well, Hosanna is now up and moving just like we thought he would be. He's just doing a little toilet time first. After a big meal, one does have to go to the toilet and just get rid of any of the excess weight that they've got before starting their afternoon or evenings moving around. So I think he's just going to finish up with that, and then we'll start to see him walking and doing his journey. Now it looks like he's going to head in the direction that I thought he would, which is westwards towards Treehouse Dam side. Now, the interesting thing about this is there are tracks for a female leopard on Philemon's cut line from last night, which I presumed was Shadow's tracks. Apparently, they go down towards Treehouse Dam. Obviously, could have been Tundi. Apparently, they did turn back more towards the east, so it could be Tundi. But it's going to be interesting when he gets to, if he does go that way and he gets those tracks, whether he's going to pick it up and then try and double back and follow the scent of those tracks. But unfortunately for us, if he does head down the road, we're going to have to drive past that landmine that he's just laid, which is not going to smell very pleasant. So we'll have to block our noses as we go past. When leopards and lions go to the toilet, it's never a fun experience having to drive past 2 minutes later. You can see he's directly in front of us at the moment. The nice thing is that the wind is blowing south, so it's not blowing towards us, and we don't have to smell it while he's busy. We can just wait for him to... Whatever's happening there, it must be a fairly large caliber, because that took quite a while. And there we go. He's now off and ready to go, so we can now follow him. I just want... No, don't lie in the middle of the road right next to your dung. So, Sammy Jane, you say evacuation? Yes, well, I think it would be pertinent to evacuate when you hear or when you smell one of these. They really are horrific smelling bombs that leave behind. The cats are all known to leave rather nasty surprises, so hopefully it's not going to smell too bad. I'm sure it won't be great, but let's hope it doesn't smell too bad. Now, I'm going to need... Oh, you're going to flop down right there now? Okay, fair enough. You can flop down there if you want to. There's still a bit of yawning going on, so he's looking up into the trees and just having a bit of a scan around. So maybe he's just decided, not quite sure where I'm heading to just yet. I just felt like lying in a different place. Maybe he's trying to get away from the flies around that water hole, and that's why he's just moved a little bit and come and lay down here. You can see he is panting a little bit, so still on the warm side, and also, again, full bellied, so there will be a bit of panting. But you can see that male kind of roundness and bulkiness is definitely starting to come through. He's starting to look quite imposing, isn't he? He's lost that cub face and he's now got a more serious male leopard stare to him, and he's fast becoming a decent sized individual. Oh, big yawn. You can see those teeth are still big and white and healthy. Elsko, I'm not 100% sure. I would say Hosanna probably weighs in the region of maybe 60 kilograms would be my guess. He could weigh a little bit more than that, but I would say about 60 kilograms is where I would guess that he is at the moment. It's about the size. He's not too far off some of the females in terms of being a little bit bigger than them, and a really large female out here would be about 45 kilograms to 50 kilograms, so he's about that sort of range. I think slightly heavier than the females given his bulk. Oof. It's not going to be easy. So where he's going, though, is an absolute nightmare, and I'm going to have to try and figure out a way to keep up with him. I thought there was a gap here. I seem to remember there being a gap here, but maybe it's over the months. Last time I drove through here was quite some time ago at Tingana, and so you might have a situation where the airlies have been a little bit busy and have closed a few sort of routes up. Now, there's a bit of water here. Are you going to come towards this area, Hosanna? I don't think so. Now, with water, he's already been at a pan now, so chances of him coming to a water hole is probably quite slim. I don't think he'll want to drink. He would have just drank where he was lying if he wanted water. So it's more of a case that he's probably going to head down into this drainage line, which for us is going to be very difficult to follow. Now, I've lost him already. He went in somewhere over here and is headed in this general vicinity. So while I try and find him and get back on his tail, let's go back to Brent Leo Smith with the other spotted cat.
Well, here we go. Now, our spotted cats have got a shadow. You see that little eye bopping around at the back there as a jackal, look like a little black-backed jackal. There we go. Now, as I said, unfortunately, we might lose our cats to Tanzania. I'm parked on the boundary, but I am hoping they decide to show disdain to the actual boundary post, which cheetah quite often do in this area. It's a great place to scent mark. I've even seen a cheetah sitting on top of it before. Okay, there we go. Sniffy, sniffy, sniffy. James is wondering, what is the average cheetah territory size compared to that of somewhere like the Kruger? It's quite similar, James. For males, around 120,000 acres. Females, probably a bit bigger. There we go. I didn't think they'd be able to resist the boundary post. And into Tanzania. Well, that's the end of that. They decided, obviously, the hunting's better in Tanzania this evening. And he's still marching. Yes, he's marching into the darkness to the southwest. Now, they'll probably be back in Kenya in a couple of days as they continue on their patrols. So at least we know they're in Tanzania now, which means I won't come looking for them for probably 3 days or so, maybe 4 before they cross back into Kenya. Oh, we're going to have a flop down there. So, oh, yeah, that looks very nice. Craig and I are about as far away from home as you can get in the Mara Triangle. So we're going to start slowly heading back towards the north as our cheetah head towards the south. While our cheetahs are up and walking away, Jamie's lions are doing the exact opposite.
She is doing, well, the exact opposite. She's not walking anywhere, but she is contact calling. Very softly and almost like she's doing it half in her sleep. Not a full roar yet, although lions do often build up that way. Especially in the early evening, they start with these soft contact calls that then build to a full roar. I'm hoping she's going to do it before the end of the sunset safari. I don't know. I found it odd that she was roaring when she was roaring, and now she's not roaring when she should be roaring, which just goes to show they like to keep us guessing. I don't know why she's lying here all on her own. Maybe she got tired of the cubs. I just don't know. I'm not quite sure what the explanation is. Close to the other female, but just a bit far. JBG? Not that I know of. Not unrelated prides. So the question is, would two lion prides, or have two lion prides ever combined in the past to create one lion pride? I suppose perhaps if you go back in history, maybe there's been 1 or 2 examples of it in Africa that's been recorded. I don't think it would happen, and most of the time I think that if it did happen, what you'll find was that the lionesses combining with the rest of the pride would probably have been originally from that pride. So sometimes what happens during a takeover is the lioness moves away with her cubs, and she can stay away for up to a year before she returns to her original pride, and that's to protect her cubs from new males. And it's a difficult time for her because she's got to raise the cubs on her own, or sometimes with another lioness. And then once those cubs are big enough to move away, or to be safe from the attentions of the new males, then she'll return and rejoin the rest of the pride. So that's the only situation where you're going to get two lion prides fusing. And it's actually in essence because they come from the same pride. Maybe there have been situations where one lioness has been, perhaps the rest of her pride has been killed, she's young, she encounters another group of young lionesses, and perhaps they might join together, but it's not nearly as common as it happens with young males. I don't know what Brent has, but it sounds interesting. Let's go and find out.
Well, it's my second spotted cat for the evening, and the smallest of the spotted cats in the Mara. But I do love their massive ears. So there we go, a little serval, not far from where we left the cheetah. Look at those massive ears to pick up all the rodents in the grass. just going to lift my spotlight for a second. I think he heard something. Now, I just carried on a little bit further down here in hopes of a white hyena or a leucistic hyena. Oh, look, he's disappearing, sneaking off. That's a Tanzanian serval as well. They're still right on the border. Oh, they are gorgeous. And Craig, on our way home, are we going to find leopard and caracal? And to end, or to see all the cats in one day. I've never managed to do that so far. The most I've ever got is everything except caracal. Beautiful. And I've got a feeling I have lost comms with Rebecca. Oh no, I haven't. Oh, something gave it a fright. There we go. Jamal says, can you get one and train it as your pet? I'm sure it's possible, Jamal, but it's not very nice for the animal. A lot of the wild animals are meant to be wild and free and not kept in captivity. So I'm sure it is probably possible. The African wildcat is the predecessor of domestic cats. So it is possible, but I think it's better to leave the animals out wild. Okay, I'm just going to change spotlights quickly. So I've got two. I've got my normal, and then I've got my big one. Oh, and I've lost sight of the serval now. It's disappeared into some long grass. But let's go across to Jamie so you can say goodbye with a lion.
Come on, lioness, you've got 60 seconds. No, you've got 120 seconds to give us a roar. I don't think she's going to, though. I think she has very much gone back to sleep. I didn't do it. Yes, I've seen lionesses sneeze on multiple occasions. What is that? How quickly can we find out what that is, Ferg? Yes, I've seen lionesses sneeze. I've seen male lions sneeze. I haven't managed to sneeze. It's a white-tailed mongoose. How's that for a surprise ending? There we go. That wasn't what I was expecting, but there we have it. A nocturnal solitary species of mongoose. Marvelous. It's actually moving along and scent marking. I've seen pretty much all lions sneeze. The funniest thing to see is when they're roaring and then they sneeze. That's hilarious. Sorry, Fergus, I'm not doing a very good job on focusing our spotlight here. Cool. Very, very cool. Okay, evening has fallen, our lioness has not called, and it's time for us to do our farewells and our thank you. Thank you very much, Ferg, for your wonderful camera work, and thank you to Rebecca in final control, and of course our team back on Djuma and the rest of the team in the Mara. Most importantly, the biggest thank you goes to all of you. Thank you for sending through your questions, your comments, and all of your jokes. We look forward to seeing you for the sunrise safari tomorrow.